here. What's really important is to be able to keep your composure and still play well. I thought Viktor played very well, just couldn't win the races when he needed to.
It's not going to be a matter of playing well moving forward for Viktor. He just needs to get lucky and double up 2, maybe even 3 times before he has some breathing room.
Peaking.
I mean, I was peaking before that hand.
Yeah, exactly.
So, of course, I'm super peaking here.
This definitely changes the dynamic of the table now because Scott Seiver, another incredibly talented and very good player, has just doubled up and now has a very healthy stack. I look for him to start putting even more pressure on the other players, especially the shorter stacks, as he tries to make a deep run to get in the money.
Action on Seiver, and he folds king high on the button, leaving Tobias to do the dirty work.
I'm a little surprised that with king high, Scott decided to fold with Viktor in the big blind, just 4 big blinds.
Toby puts Viktor all in. Viktor, no need to look, makes the call and flips up 10-7 offsuit.
If you win the pot, Viktor, me and you will be playing heads up at the end.
Yeah. Hope so.
That would be fun, right? I would love it.
And here comes the flop. It is king, jack, deuce. Not looking good for Viktor.
We need to work here. We need to do something.
Yeah, it's not looking good.
And the turn card is a 9. Viktor can now hit a queen or an 8 to make a straight, or a 7 to make a pair.
7, 8, 10, queen.
10 would be no good. That, of course, would give Toby a straight. Can Viktor stay alive? No, he cannot. And we send the Swede in search of an internet connection, no doubt.
Deuce free, I guess I win with even like a flush.
Yeah, Viktor winning some pre-flop hands earlier, but as we got to the final table, Viktor just unable to win when he was all in.
WPT Alpha 8 London is coming to you thanks to the fun, exciting poker that you can play for free on clubwpt.com. Clubwpt.com brought to you by the World Poker Tour. I'm joined by Gurchan Sahota, the world's very best car detailer and most expensive for that matter. We are at his workshop surrounded by some of the most incredible vehicles.
This is a Mercedes SL Pagoda. So this car we've spent 2 days on so far. That was just underneath the car.
Just underneath?
Yeah, that's a Morgan, that's a British car. The wheels can be a nightmare though to clean. Okay, this is one of the natural waxes that I use. This costs about £8,000.
£8,000? And how long would that last you?
This will do around about 50 cars.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Bargain.
This is a Bugatti Veyron.
I've never seen one of these in real life.
This is a £1 million car. However, this is relatively cheap compared to some of the cars I've worked on.
Really?
Yeah, some of the cars I've worked on, you could buy 10 of these.
How much do you charge to wash this
Oh,
car?
no, this one, the 50-hour one will be about 3,500.
3,500 to wash your car.
Yeah.
What is it that makes it so expensive, is it?
Quite a few of the things. The time it takes, the chemicals we use are expensive, and also we check the paintwork on a micro level, so when we're removing the fine scratches, you have to make sure you don't remove too much, because if you remove too much, then you've damaged the car and then you have to respray it. And to respray this car will cost close to £100,000. So it's not really something you want to mess up.
Wow. All right, so one of our Alpha 8 players, Sam Trickett, pretty sure he owns a Ferrari. If he was to bring it down here, what would that cost?
Well, I would do him a really good deal, so £50.
£50?
That's cheap.
Bargain! Bring my car down.
Yeah.
£50 is just for the estimate. Now the work, that's a whole nother story. As we look at the chip counts, you see currently chip leader Tobias Rankenmeyer with almost $500,000 in front of him. Max Altergott on the short stack with 116,000. Meanwhile, Richard Young with ace-queen offsuit has 277,000, and he's put 12 of those into the middle. Good for a min raise. Action on Scott Seiver with 6-7 suited. He looks like he's got an idea here.
Scott, having recently doubled up, probably feels flush with chips.
And he's gonna put 28,000 of them out there, 3-betting. Trying to isolate the amateur?
Trying to isolate the amateur, along with, the hand might, from Scott's point of view, might be a little bit too weak to call with, so instead he decides to 3-bet, giving himself the additional fold equity.
He's heads up in position, heading to the flop, and that flop, ace-queen-4, Young with top 2 pair. He checks it over to Scott. And Seiver with 69,000 in the middle is going to continuation bet.
Scott has two backdoor draws, backdoor straight and backdoor flush draws, not to mention this flop is going to hit a big part of the range that Scott normally is 3-betting with.
Betting a call of 25,000. The turn is an 8.
I like Richard just checking and calling on the flop. It disguises the strength of his hand, along with allowing him to play a slightly weaker hand in the same way.
Both players check, and the river, a deuce. Young bets 100,000.
After Scott checks the turn, Richard just trying to go for value with top 2 pair. Unfortunately for him, Scott with just 7 high, not much he can do.
You would have satisfied my thirst.
Actions on Igor.
Date overnight.
Igor folds. Action on Tony G.
There's other forms of pain too, you know, right?
Of course, I mean, I've
Lays it down.
Obviously.
Scott Seiver, and Scott looks at
Probably had
king-queen
more pain than
offsuit
you.
and raises it up again, this time to 12,000 once more.
Philip on the button with queen-jack suited. If it was offsuit, he might consider 3-betting, but instead just calling.
Scott picks up a call from Richard Young's ace-7 suited. Max Altergott in there as well with king-jack offsuit.
A lot of these players sharing cards.
4-way action heading to the flop. King, ace, 10 with 2 clubs. Fun for everyone.
Philip Gruesome flopping a straight, and everyone else having at least some part of this flop.
Young checks his aces.
Scott Seiver, the original razor pre-flop, flopping 2nd pair and a gut shot, deciding to just check, hoping for a free card. But Philip, having flopped a nut straight, is not going to let anybody get a free card here.
Young checked his aces. Altergott checked the kings with the gut shot straight draw. The original razor Seiver checking a similar hand, but no such luck out of Gruesome's seat as he is betting 25,000.
Richard with top pair and a backdoor flush draw.
Makes the call. We lose both of the kings, and now the turn, a 6 of spades.
Now this gives Richard, along with his top pair, the nut flush draw. Philip still has the nuts and continuing to try to build a pot. I'm sure he'll bet here on the turn.
Yeah, Richard has checked to him.
Oh yeah.
Gruesome bets 65,000, and Young is going to check raise all in.
I have been nuts. Never mind.
I don't really like this play because though he does have a good semi-bluffing hand and a flush draw, he also has top pair and can very easily just call the turn bet
Insurance?
and see how the river changes things. Instead, he puts his chips at risk, and now he's a big underdog and could bust out here if he doesn't hit a spade.
Can I split the cup?
He's worse than 4-1 in this spot.
Oh yeah.
And can't connect. And the chip counts were very, very close to start this particular hand.
That's pretty good to dodge that one.
Our tournament director stops by, and it is official. Philip Gruesome has sent Richard Young out in 8th place.
Richard, one of the most colorful characters at this table. I thought he played very well, especially for a non-professional.
I want to do that to you in the heads up. Oh, you had your chance of revenge. At least you had your chance of revenge. You must bet. You got top pair, really?
Third eye, Phil. That's the third eye on his shirt, no?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Pardon?
You have the third eye. It's like the third eye on your shirt.
No use the eyes, cannot see the cut. I go back and flip. The salesman told me, the sales told me, is it can see the cut. I see the pocket check.
You ever been in that good a mood after losing 100,000 pounds?
Can't say I have, but I don't think my bankroll is quite up to Richard Young's.
Yeah, bad shirt. Cannot see. Terrible shirt.
You can see the cut. I just see the pocket check. Then I raise it
That's what I
before.
would see too.
Richard, tonight coffee is on me, yeah? All right.
We'll return to London for more high-stakes action after this.
Do you know when to hold 'em and when to fold 'em? Prove your poker supremacy and rise to the top of the ClubWPT.com leaderboard. Play all the poker you want, 100% free, today and every day at ClubWPT.com. So far, we've seen plenty of action here at the Palm Beach Casino in Mayfair. The game continues, so let's get back to Ali and Olivier.
And the game continues 6-handed. We are closer and closer to the money bubble. Top 4 places will be getting paid And here's a look at the chip counts. Up top, we see Philip Gruesome with 654,000. At the bottom, Max Altergott with 116,000. Scott Seiver is on the button here. Tobias and Philip are in the blinds.
Yep.
It's time for us to get some Rosetta Stone going or something, because there's too much German happening, and I want to know what they're saying.
Das gehe ich mal davon aus.
Can you understand anything? I can't understand a single word.
No. 9. That means no in German.
That much I knew.
Yeah, you knew that. Fold it around to Scott Seiver on the button, and in English, he says raise, making it 14,000 to go.
Yeah, 5-3 suited, obviously not the best hand, but Scott on the button and a very aggressive player, going to play a relatively wide range from the button.
But two deep stacks to his left in Toby and Philip, both of whom are excellent players, maybe a little bit wider open than he needs to be.
Yeah, I don't think I would have opened here, but Scott's a little bit more active of a player than I am.
Gruesome, with 2 7s in the big blind, defended, and the flop has come King 3-4. Both players check. Turn card is a queen.
Scott does make a pair, but not strong enough in his view to bet, and decides to take a free card. Philip, confident now after Scott's check, even though the queen is also not a great card for Philip's hand, bets for value here on the turn.
And that bet, 17,000.
Can't imagine Scott folding a pair at this point.
Well, why not? Why can't you lay this hand down?
Well, basically, Philip could be bluffing with a number of hands, especially after Scott checked the flop. He could have some straight draws, some flush draws, or maybe just trying to pick up on the weakness that Scott exhibited by checking on the flop.
All right, and the river is a 9.
Neither player is going to like this card. Some of the semi-bluffing hands that Philip could have had, like 9-10 or Jack-10, have now made a much stronger hand. And looks like he bets on the river. This is very surprising. In my view, his hand is a little bit too weak to bet for value, but too strong to bluff, so I'm not sure exactly what he's doing. Scott looks like he just doesn't believe Philip and pays him off with just a 3. And the way Philip turned his 2 7s over, he looked very confident that he had the best hand. Looks like it was just a straight value bet. Really impressive by Philip Gruesome to understand the situation, know his opponent, and bet for value with such a weak hand. I'm a little surprised that Scott Seiver paid off with such a weak hand, but again, there's probably a lot of history between these players that we don't fully know at this point.
What kind of impact does having Gruesome turn his hand up the way that he did, suggesting that he knew it was good, have on a player like Seiver? I mean, that's pretty disheartening.
Not just Seiver, but the whole table is going to understand just that Philip's on his game. It's kind of intimidating when someone makes such a thin bet and is so confident and right in their own play.
Ace-9 offsuit, and Max Altergott moves all in for his last 102,000.
I'm all in.
And now Seiver with ace-queen suited moves all in over the top of him and shows him the bad news. Altergott's gonna need some serious help here.
Not too much Max could do. Moving in with 100,000 when the blinds are 3 and 6,000. He could have decided to just min-raise and fold if someone put some pressure on him, but him deciding to put his chips at risk is definitely not a terrible play given his stack.
And here is the flop. 5, ace, 9. Oh my goodness, Altergott has hit aces up here to take the lead. He's turned sauerkraut into Spätzle.
A very fortunate flop for Max, but he's not out of the woods yet. As we see, the turn card brings another heart, giving Scott Seiver the nut flush draw.
We have some interesting spots all the time.
So many ways for Max to lose this pot. He needs to avoid the minefield that is the river.
Okay, go.
Max can't take it anymore.
Let's see the river card.
Here it comes. It is the 3 of hearts, and Seiver has made the nut flush, and that is the end for Max Altergott.
It's always brutal when you start out behind, catch up on the flop, but still end up losing. Not a fun way for Max to get eliminated.
Altergott finishing in 6th place, one of 2 players to re-enter in this event, which means he spent 200,000 pounds and ended up with nothing.
What a turn. I was not praying for this turn. GG. Happens.
Great job.
Down to 5 players, we are officially on the dreaded money bubble. So Max isn't the last player that's gonna go home empty-handed.
We are now down to just 5 players, and this is the point in the tournament that we call the money bubble. which means that the next player to be eliminated will go home empty-handed, and from then on, players will receive a payday. Now, traditionally, in tournaments, this is where play tightens up, but with these guys, anything is possible.
I hate this stage in a tournament, Olivier, because I just know we are moments away from someone going home very, very unhappy.
Yeah, your feeling about the bubble usually depends on how many chips you have. The more chips you have, the more you like the bubble, and the shallower stack you are, the more you dread it.
Short stack right now belongs to Tony G. Igor looks down at 9-10 suited in the cutoff.
16.
And raises it up to 16,000. Blinds have gone up to 4 and 8,000. Ante at 1K. So this is a min raise.
Means that Igor has just about 25 big blinds with this raise.
And it's been folded to the big blind of Tobias. He's got pocket sixes. And he wants to put Igor all in.
Not much Igor can do there with just 10 high.
Protecting a friend.
Protecting?
Well, you don't want him to call, right? I guess that's the only thing.
That's not a nice protection I want to have from my friends, Tony.
I mean, if you got a big hand.
I didn't have a big
Next time, if you protect me, please, just call.
If I had a really big hand, I would have 3-bet hoping that he moves in. But I wasn't that strong. I was very happy with the
You have bad friends, Tony.
What's Tony G upset about?
I think Tony's just upset because he's the short stack, and he was hoping Igor would somehow bust and Tony would would get into the money. Toby giving Tony a little poker lesson on how to play on bubble strategy.
Scott Seiver makes it 16,000 to go, and Toby has ace king offsuit. You expect a raise here, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no, he just calls.
I would normally expect Toby to 3-bet on the bubble with ace king.
Oh, and look at this. Philip Gruesome has 2 aces, and he's made it 48,000 total.
Igor folds.
Tony folds. Seiver's hand quickly hits the muck, and what do you do if you're Toby?
Yeah, I mean, at this point, I think it's definitely the right play to just call. They're both pretty deep stacked, and even though Toby has a big hand here, there's no way he wants to put his tournament life at risk when there's 3 stacks much shorter than him. He can almost guarantee to get paid if he just plays a little bit more conservatively than usual.
In a different situation, he may have moved all in and taken his chances,
in
but
a different
not
situation,
right now.
this is a huge pre-flop cooler, and I can't imagine these players not getting all in. But Toby, being the smart and aware player that he is, playing a little bit more cautious with just ace-king offsuit in this very, very critical spot.
And that caution continues. The flop is 3-4-8, and Toby has checked it over to Philip, who has fired a bet of 45,000 with his aces.
Now, 8-4-3 is relatively dry, and Toby does decide to take a card off here. He doesn't have a pair, but he does have the strongest non-pair hand possible.
5 on the turn. Both players pick up a wheel draw. Only one needs it, though. That, of course, Toby, who's way behind. He checks it over to Gruesome.
But since Philip has 2 aces, I'm sure he'll bet again. And the bet itself does change the situation. There's one thing to continuation bet on the flop, but it's another thing entirely to bet twice, especially after your opponent has called you on the flop. So Toby does see this bet by Philip as a sign of strength and decides to let go without a pair.
That was special.
Yeah, 120K too rich for Toby's blood, and he'll lay it down, allowing Gruesome to add to his chip lead.
There's more to the UK than just high-stakes poker. Log on to clubwpt.com and join Lynn as she discovers the wonders of London on the A8's Clip of the Week. clubwpt.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
Finding myself around this Alpha 8 lifestyle, fine dining naturally comes with the game. So I felt it was fitting to get some well-needed advice, and who better to turn to than an English butler. So, Neil, I need a little bit of help, all right? I guess you could say I'm a little bit of a country girl from Australia. Okay. I've got this amazing gig on Alpha 8 with these fancy boys, Ali and Olivier. What are some of the mistakes that someone makes when they sit at a fancy table?
What we wouldn't do is put our elbows on the table. We would sit, yeah, exactly like that, your hands on your lap. Probably fork in right hand, pushing the food around.
Like when I start to...
Yes, we would never do that.
Why is that?
It's just not the done thing, really. Now, the correct way to eat the soup is to scoop away from you and then to drink or eat the soup from the side of the spoon.
Really?
Indeed.
Why away from me?
I would assume it's so we don't slop it on our lap, but
Oh. There you go. How do I hold a wine glass?
whites and champagnes, you can take the stem, because if you're holding the glass, you're going to increase the temperature of the wine. If it's champagne or white wine, you of course don't want to do that.
Never knew that.
Your champagne, madam.
Thank you very much.
Pleasure.
Cheers to you. Ali and Olivier, I'll see you at a fancy restaurant.
Well, not if we're rolling with Tony G. He has a little bit of attitude on him right now. He's talking to the tournament director, apparently still upset about that pot that involved Toby and Igor.
You mad, Tony?
No, when Tobias moved all in, when there's only 30 in the middle and he's moving in for... No, I'm just saying, I'm not thinking, I'm just saying, I saw it. I'm just saying what I saw. You saw it too.
What did you see?
No, when you moved all in, I didn't like it, that's all. I mean, that's just, I'm saying it. I'm saying it straight away. When you moved all in, I didn't like it. Because it was too much. It was a heavy overbet to say. I mean, I would like to see what you had that hand and then what you had.
I tell you, I had pocket sixes.
Okay. That's fine.
That's fine.
I mean, I wouldn't have been happy if you had like queens or kings. Yeah, I would have been upset.
I would have never done it with queens in my whole life.
Okay, it's just weird because look, it's just weird. I'm being honest. It's okay. I'm not gonna bring it out. I know you guys are very good.
You know what? This is
have a
not good for your
problem.
parliamentary campaign. This is not
Well,
good
but
for
you
your-
got to be honest with what. I mean, I'm just saying it was just weird. That bit of action was weird. That's all. I didn't like it because you don't really do that. You never do it, so I didn't like
It's a
that time.
different situation on the bubble, though. Well, like,
Okay, all right.
He's not often in situations.
That's it.
where,
I mean,
you
I
know,
just didn't
he's
like it.
playing
I
against
would've-
the friend.
Come on.
Pretty serious allegation by Tony.
Yeah, I don't know if Tony is outright making an allegation, but the implication that Tony's making, I think, is completely out of line. It seems like he's upset that Toby moved all in when Igor raised pre-flop. Igor, at that hand, only had about 25 big blinds, and Toby was in the big blind himself. It's a completely normal and standard play for him to move in, regardless of the bubble. The idea that Toby has to now defend his play and tell Tony what his hand is, I think, is completely inappropriate. Tony had absolutely no evidence to make this sort of implication, and I think the reality is he's the short stack. He doesn't want to bust. He understands that he's outclassed by these other players, and he's basically just complaining like a baby. I really don't appreciate this, the entire tone or style that Tony has taken in this situation.
All right, it's finished. It's finished. I apologize. You know, I didn't like it, but it's finished. You're a good guy. All of you are good guys. Great guys.
I can promise you, I would never do anything different, ever. Like, if you sat there, I would have moved it all in against you. It doesn't matter.
Okay. That's it. That's fine. There's no questions.
Meanwhile, we have a pot in progress between Tony and Philip Gruesome. Both players checking on the 6-deuce tray board. Gruesome with a pair of threes has the best hand. Turn is a jack. Tony checks again. Gruesome showing some pause. And knuckles bottom pair. To the river we go. It's a 9.
Check.
Check it down.
And I like the way Philip played this hand, flopping a pair. The board did not run out that great. Didn't have enough of a hand to value bet, but still enough to win, so he just checks it down.
Just to put a button on that discussion we were having about Tony,
Sure.
the inference that he is making is that what Toby did was, in essence, conveying a very strong hand.
Right, he's saying because they're friends, Toby was helping him out by going all in and thereby conferring the information that he had a strong hand. And Toby's saying that he never would have made that play with pocket queens or pocket kings because those hands are too strong. I don't even necessarily agree with that. I think it would have been fine if Toby had done that with pocket queens. I think Tony was just out of line and basically just whining because he's the short stack and surrounded by 4 players that have him outskilled.
Well played, too.
Ace-3 offsuit for one of those skillful players, Scott Seiver, who min raises to 16,000.
That's one of the unique dynamics of the bubble is that the player that makes the first initial aggression has a very, very strong advantage. So though Scott doesn't have a very strong hand in ace-3 offsuit, they are 5-handed, and since he's made the first aggressive play, he's going to get a little extra respect.
Tony G wants to take a peek for an extra 8,000, sitting on Jack 10 off. And the flop, 10, 8, 4. Top pair and a jack kicker for Tony, who checks to Scott.
Scott probably continuation bets a little bit less frequently than some other opponents. The 10 and the 8 are not a great combination for Scott because Tony in the big blind is going to defend with a lot of hands that hit. 7, 9, 8, 9, 10 jack, queen jack, all those types of hands.
And we saw Scott check behind on the flop and then check behind on the turn after having made the best hand with a pair of aces. River card is a 5, and Tony is leading out for 16,000.
Yeah, at this point, after 2 checks, Tony thinks his 10 might be good, bets for value, but frustrated to see that Scott actually very deceptively checked when he made a pair of aces on the turn.
That is not a happy poker player.
You can see the frustration mounting in Tony G as just nothing going his way.
And this is the kind of thing you really don't want to be doing. Everybody's taking note of this.
Absolutely, and I don't think any of the other 4 players would have reacted this way, just so emotionally getting so down on themselves and so frustrated. This is part of what happens in poker. You have to be able to keep it together, keep your composure, and play the best poker possible. Otherwise, especially against such a tough level of competition, you're just going to give away too much and not be able to come back.
Pocket queens for the chip leader.
Nice run for Philip here.
Yeah,
He's had
no
a number
kidding.
of strong hands.
And he's going to raise it up. It's pocket 7s. For Tony G, he moves all in for 121,000. And Scott Seiver with pocket 8s, flat calls. Now back over to Gruesome.
I'm all in.
Wow, it looks like Philip has gone all in after Scott called with pocket queens. I can't imagine Scott calling here with 2 8s.
Okay, fold. 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 Showdown. Ace king. That's smashed.
I'm out.
Fold.
Tony already resigned to his fate. Obviously, he does have a chance to win with a pair.
What could I do?
Your jacks?
No, just under.
10.
Easy fold.
Yeah, I just need to think it through. I don't know.
Ace king would have been better.
How do you wake up with it? You know, I had to think it through. Like maybe he didn't. Maybe he had king queen.
8, 9, 10 on the flop.
Oh, yeah, Tony.
Scott would have flopped a set of 8s here.
Right, now obviously that's
Draw.
results-oriented thinking,
draw,
but
right?
it's always hurts when you fold a pair and then see that you would have flopped a set.
Yeah, Tony, meanwhile, has an open-ended straight draw. The jack would be no good.
I'm out, right?
And that's exactly what comes up on the turn. And the board pairing on the end.
Tony, good game.
This is a disaster. This is unbelievable.
Well, the bubble has burst, and so has the tension. These guys are all in a good mood. Why? Because they're paid.
You mad, Tony?
And there's a look at 4 players who are in the money.
Yeah, 10s.
One of whom is suggesting he folded pocket 10s.
Those people that go all in, just go all in there, they have 1 million chips right now.
I know.
Yeah, it looks like Scott is not correcting that. Doesn't make that much of a difference. Both pocket 10s and pocket 8s would have made a full house and won the pot.
Great game so far here at the Palm Beach Casino in Mayfair. Join us next time as we play down and crown a winner. For Ali Najad and Olivier Bousquet, I'm Lynn Gilmartin from WPT Alpha 8 London. The world's richest and most daring players have braved the competition, and tonight we will crown a winner. This is WPT Alpha 8. We are back at the Palm Beach Casino in Mayfair for the conclusion of WPT Alpha 8 London. It's only fitting that poker's most exclusive final table be played right here in one of the most posh and expensive neighbourhoods in the world. The entry fee was £100,000. And tonight, we will see who will parlay their investment into a cachet of royal riches. Ali Najad and Olivier Bousquet have an exclusive view of the action from the ClubWPT.com skybox. Good evening, guys.
Good evening to you, Lynn, and to those of you at home who are joining us. You know, we began our London event with 18 players, and we're now down to just 4, all of whom are in the money. So it's not so much a matter of whether or not they'll be paid, Olivier, but just how much they're going to be taking home. And in looking at those 4 faces, what can we expect?
Well, the blinds are relatively high, so I expect some pre-flop aggression. Also, the 4 players we have left are all excellent players. They might not be the most recognized names in poker, but they're widely considered to be in the top 10 or 20 live tournament poker players in the world.
On tap, we're going to have some of the best poker you're likely to see anywhere. So without further ado, let's get down to our final table and set the stage. Prize pool was almost £2 million. 4th place will be taking home 235,000 of those. First is going to take home over 862,000 pounds. And let's get a look at the chip counts. Philip Gruesome is on top, 1.25 and change in front of him. Second in chips is Tobias Reckenmeyer with 336, Scott Seiver in third with 225, and Igor Kurganov with 180,000.
You guys are bidding, or?
Button will begin on Tobias.
No pair for you?
Philip and Igor are in the blinds. And there's a good start for Scott Seiver. Pocket kings, and he just limps in.
Now, this play might look very suspicious, but I suspect that four-handed, short-handed in general, not only Scott, but a number of these players has started to limp in more than you would normally expect. So he's probably doing this having already limped in with some weaker hands, and now this trap looks like it's going to work since Phil Gruesome has ace-jack offsuit here.
All in.
And moves all in.
Call.
I was so sure to have it this time, man.
Snap call from
Sick.
Scott.
Why did I do that?
Oh, an instant remorse by Philip.
Too nice of a hand.
Yeah, Philip's hand definitely strong enough to move in. Scott only had about 22 big blinds, but he said that he had a specific feeling in this particular case that Scott had a big hand. Sometimes in poker, you get those feelings and you hope that you can trust yourself, but it's very difficult to go against the kind of standard strategy that you know to also be correct.
Well, let's see if ace-jack can get lucky against two kings. A king right away on the flop. Ace-jack in a world of trouble here.
Definitely not.
Seiver the one at risk, however. He can ice things on the turn unless Philip gets some help.
Queen.
On the jack is no good. No way for Philip to win the pot now. And they'll count it down and double Scott up. Nice start to four-way action for him.
Philip still the overwhelming chip leader with over 1 million chips, with no player even at half his chip stack at 500,000.
First real misstep we've seen from Philip Gruesome.
And I really can't call it a misstep. I mean, it was really a cooler pre-flop four-handed ace-jack to pocket kings. He's just frustrated with himself because he had inside him an intuitive feeling that probably Philip, the type of player that normally trusts those feelings, just in this particular case didn't do it, and ended up Scott had pocket kings and Philip doubled them up.
Pocket fours for Igor after Philip raised it to 26,000.
Igor with about 15 big blinds doesn't have much of a decision with a pocket pair here. It's just got to move in.
Well, he's just three-betting it to 100,000.
Yeah, 100,000 is basically the same as moving his chips in. I don't think the players will think anything differently of this.
So why make it 100 and not just move all in?
Honestly, I'm not sure. Maybe it's just those were the chips that were in front of him and he just felt like throwing them in there.
Well, Toby is looking down at ace-jack suited.
All in. Kings, Toby? Pair? Woo! Oh, call. Call. Yeah.
Oh, he folded.
And even though 2-4s are the best hand right now, look at those percentages. Given the hands that have been dealt and all the cards we've seen, ace-jack suited is actually a small favorite.
I wanted a straight.
Here comes the flop. It's 5-8 ace. Toby jumps out into the lead.
Deuce 3, 6, 7.
Yeah, ace-jack a slightly bigger favorite now that he's flopped an ace.
Oh, I don't know about slightly. I'd
now,
say it's a
four
much bigger favorite.
There it goes.
And the turn card, a 3, not bad for Igor.
Yeah, not so fast. Igor picking up a straight draw. Any 2 or 4 on the river would keep Igor alive.
And he hit one of his 6 outs. He cannot. And Igor Kurganov will be the first player to cash in the WPT Alpha 8 London event, finishing in 4th place for £235,200.
It's one of the reasons that it was so relaxed after the bubble burst is that really there are no bad payouts. 4th place, like you said, the first person to cash still making a great sum of money.
And then there were 3. You're either on the button or in the blinds at this point. And Toby, first to act on the button, looks down at Jack 3 suited. Not exactly premium, but he's got position and he's going to put it to use, raising it up to 26,000. Chip leader folds and it's back around to Scott Seiver, who takes a peek at ace deuce offsuit. And he will defend. We'll see the flop heads up. And that flop is 4, tray 5. Scott Seiver flops a wheel. Bottom pair, meanwhile, for Toby. Seiver checks.
Yeah, Scott flopping a straight here. Definitely going to take Toby by surprise. You don't necessarily expect the big blind to hit this range of cards. Usually you expect them to have a little bit higher cards.
33,000.
And that probably playing a part into Toby's continuation bet of 33,000.
Toby with just bottom pair deciding to bet, also because his pair is obviously very vulnerable. Any card that comes off is bad for Toby's pair here. Scott has such a strong hand, I think he should contemplate just calling here, but instead he decides to check raise, trying to get as much money in the pot right away.
Yeah, his hand is also vulnerable with 2 hearts out there. Obviously a 6 or a 7 would be a bad card on the turn.
Yeah, but it's so hard to make a hand as good as a straight. I think personally I would have played it passively and let another card come off.
Oh, Seiver hasn't lost Toby just yet. He makes the call.
Very liberal call here with just bottom pair.
And the turn is a jack. Toby now has jacks up, still beat, of course, but something else has changed.
One of the best cards Toby could hope for.
But it is the jack of hearts.
It is a heart, which if Scott Seiver had a flush draw, would give him a flush.
I'm all in.
Well, Seiver moves all in.
And this is part of the problem with calling on the flop if you're Toby, because this is one of the best cards that could have come out. And now that Scott's moved all in, you still don't know what you can do. I think Toby ultimately will have to call because Scott could have some 2-pair hands himself, hands like 5-4, 4-3, or 3-5. And from that point of view, Toby can't fold that hand, especially since Scott only started the hand with just over 30 big blinds.
I call. Cool.
Well, Toby does make the call, and Seiver's already doubled up once so far. Can he do it again?
It's a little loose, but if I decide I'm going for it on the flop, I can fold the turn.
2 pairs, jack 3 for Tobias with 1.
You know, I don't mind calling the flop with bottom pair, but just not when it's such a connected flop with 3 cards in a row like this. You could definitely be drawing dead.
Well, Toby's hoping for a jack or a 3 to get it down to heads up and move up in the payout. Instead, it's a 5, and Scott Seiver
275, right?
is going to double up.
Just like that, Scott and Toby switch places. Toby now the shorter stack, and Scott comfortably in second position.
And with that flip-flop, Toby, now the short stack, as you mentioned, with 332,000 in chips. Scott nipping at the heels of chip leader Philip Gruesom's 876 with 792,000. Gruesome on the button with Queen 8 offsuit.
Yeah.
It's all right. Don't worry.
Raises it up to 27,000. Seiver takes a look at King 10 off in the small blind.
Cool.
And just calls. 10-8 off in the big blind.
I think Scott could have considered 3-betting here. He probably mixes it up, 3-bets sometimes, then calls other times. Maybe even folds occasionally with King 10 from the small blind.
Toby is called as well. All 3 players take the flop of King 7 deuce. Seiver with the best hand checks it. Toby checks as well. And as does Philip. A little harder to continuation bet when you get called in 2 spots pre-flop.
Definitely. I think also if it was an ace 7-2 flop instead of king 7-2, Philip might have been a little bit more likely to continuation bet, but
Turn card is a 9. Toby now has an open-ended straight draw, and Seiver isn't going to be checking top pair any longer. Bets 40,000. Toby makes the call. Easy fold for Philip.
I think Toby's calling not just to hit the straight, but also since he's in position, if Scott does check on the river, I think Toby would take a shot regardless of whether he hits.
Well, he does hit as the jack comes off, and look at the way Toby's staring at Scott.
Yeah, a little bit suspicious there. Scott not paying attention to Toby, so nothing he can really pick up.
Although he's not betting his king 10 anymore.
Yeah, he might have picked something up, you never know. I think personally I would like to bet for value here with king 10. It's a very strong hand. Toby could definitely have some weaker hands himself, and if you are beat, you can control the size of the pot by controlling your bet size. Instead, Scott does instantly call and allows Toby to control the bet size.
Big hand. I said I'm taking my one back. I tossed one. Big hand. Big hand.
River card cost Scott 85,000 on top of the investment he had already made.
Tell myself, no jack, no jack.
We'll return to London for more high-stakes action after this.
Alpha 8 is brought to you by ClubWPT.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
We are down to just 3. WPT Alpha 8 London. These guys are now guaranteed to at least triple their money. But of course, all eyes are on the trophy and over £860,000 that comes with it. Back to you, Ali and Olivier.
Well, these 3 guys have so much money at this point, you wonder whether or not the trophy isn't the real lure. I mean, they probably got some pretty impressive cases at this point.
You'd be surprised. Poker's a tough game to make a good living at, even though these are 3 of the best players in the world.
Well, looking at their resumes, Philip Gruesome already with over $5.5 million in live tournament earnings. Scott Seiver just under $8 million, and Tobias just under $7 million. That's pretty impressive. Let's get a look at the chip counts. Philip Gruesome on top, not far behind is Scott Seiver, and not far behind him is Tobias Rankenmeyer.
And no real short stack here.
He looks down at pocket 5s. Blinds are currently at 8 and 16,000 with a 2K ante.
It'd be very disrespectful to hold that. It's just like, you know.
Philip makes it 35,000 to go. And Seiver looks down at king 10 offsuit. We've seen him just call from a small blind to a raise from Philip on the button so far with this hand.
We see Scott mixing up his play, just calling before with king 10 and now 3-betting it.
Making it 115,000 total.
I'm all in.
Philip moves all in here. Scott has over 40 big blinds. This is a really big shove here.
And Gruesome didn't take very long to move all in either.
Yeah, I mean, Scott had a lot of chips there. I don't love that move in there from Philip, but
Easy game.
Scott is 3-betting, you know, pretty often, so Philip moving in with 2 5s is reasonable. Scott's going to fold a lot of the time, but still, I think it's a little too big of a risk considering how many chips Scott had.
But high risk, high reward. King Jack suited for Toby on the button now. He makes it 35,000 to go.
I'm all in. Schmetterball.
And Philip is going to move all in with King Queen off.
Schmetterball.
What would Timo Bull think? Fold.
Seiver getting a good chuckle out of having to fold his King Jack.
So disgusting.
So disgusting.
Now it's back to Toby.
I can call, but
And he folds as well.
disgusting anyways.
Schmetterball.
The Schmetterball thing.
You hear Tobias using the term Schmetterballing it in German. Schmetterball is a spike, smash, or hardly hit or thrown ball that is difficult to defend. I say that's about right.
That's a risky Schmetterball.
That's a really risky one.
Yeah, it's always tough to play against my friends because they are obviously very good and then they know a little bit what I'm doing, so I can't get too much out of line every time.
Like, I didn't think you would pull it off.
Oh my. The sick part is, it was so brilliant. Anything else, I do something.
What do you mean? I do something too.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm ready. I was really ready.
Way I could win the hand, right?
I had a great hand here.
Yeah.
Just, it's
What
timing.
hand did you have?
Ted, King, and Jack.
Me too.
Oh my God.
Which suit?
I have no idea. Different suits. Different
I was
suits.
spades. Suited even.
Oh no, I was different suits.
Well, you know you're friends when you're sharing information, and there's over $1.25 million up for grabs.
I was like,
What a brilliant move by him. Just
I know.
brilliant.
I was like, now he's 3-betting, and I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm already like,
Of course.
going nuts, and then all in from him. It's like, what's happening?
Philip right back at it, raising to 35,000 from the button. Seiver folds, and it's ace-9 for Toby in the big blind, suited. He just defends.
We see a different strategy out of Toby. Toby with about the 30 big blinds could have just moved in with ace-9 of spades, but he decided to take a flop. I prefer this strategy myself.
5-4 tray on the board, wheel draw for Toby. He's got the best hand with ace-high and checks it.
Both Phil and Toby have 2 overs and a gut shot straight draw. Toby also a backdoor flush draw to go along with it.
Philip bets 40,000.
Can't imagine Toby folding here, just too much equity. And a board that is on the drier side, even though it is 3 cards in a row, they're very low, and I think Philip would be continuation betting with a pretty wide range here.
Toby not done with his hand yet. He makes the call, and we'll see a turn card. 10 of diamonds.
This is a card that Toby is not gonna like. It's not a spade, doesn't really give him any more equity. It's another card that if it hit Philip's hand, beats him.
100,000.
I like another barrel here from Phil for a couple of reasons. One, his hand is probably not good with just king high. 2, he does have some equity, so he can make a good hand if he does get called. And 3, it's a type of board where Toby is likely to be calling with some weak hands. Phil does decide to bet the turn. Toby's hand not good enough to continue. Nice aggressive play by Philip Gruesome.
Don't try this at home. These guys are making it look easy. Philip Gruesome adding to his chip lead. We'll see if he can ride that lead all the way home
Sucked out on the turn.
as action continues from London.
Good turn.
Looking for high roller excitement without the high roller risk? Go to clubwpt.com now and play in our Alpha 8 High Roller play chip tournaments and ring games for a chance to be crowned champion. Our players here at Alpha 8 already have so much cash. What on earth would they buy if they win first place prize? Well, when in England, you got to get a Rolls-Royce.
So this is our new car. This is Ray.
It's gorgeous. Blue's my colour, so,
Blue's your colour? Well, we chose
you
it just
picked
for
the
you.
right one.
Everything that's in this, all the stitching lines, the wood, the materials, everything is all done by hand.
Oh, incredible.
There's so many things to show you. We wanted to give customers something different than just an interior light. It's called a starlight headliner.
Oh, it's like a starry sky.
And also, if you do get out at the end of your drive and it's raining, you of course have the umbrella.
There's an umbrella in the door. It's definitely a British car. Kind of scared to ask you this question before I take it for a spin. How much is this worth?
In dollars, perhaps around 250,000. But the reality is that it's just a starting point.
Suddenly the Alpha 8 buy-in seems affordable compared to this. Oh. I don't even have to pull the door shut. This is when you know you've made it, when you can own a Rolls-Royce. Okay, I'm gonna floor it. Whoa! It really takes off. Oh my God. Woo! Wow. Now it all makes sense why these are the best cars. They really are. Incredible.
Now it all makes sense why Lynn is in always such a good mood. Look at that. She gets to play with Rolls-Royces and I get to tell you what the prize pool is. But you know what? That's not too shabby because it's enough for a Rolls-Royce, over 350,000 pounds, going to third place. But of course, first is what these guys have their sights set on. Philip Gruesome still the chip leader, Scott Seiver in second, Tobias in third. Tobias Rankenmeyer with pocket queens. raising on the button to 35,000.
Probably feels a little bit closer to first when he gets dealt such a big hand on the button.
Mm-hmm. Philip out of the way, and it's back over to Scott Seiver with 10-9 offsuit.
Pretty standard defend from Scott with his chip stack.
And the flop is 4, Jack 7. Scott checks with the gut shot straight draw. 2 queens still way out in front.
Toby started this hand with 300,000 chips, the blinds being 18 and 16,000, so Toby under 20 big blinds. The blinds being 8 and 16,000. So Scott here flopped some equity with 10-9, flopped a gut shot, not going anywhere to Toby's continuation bet.
Yeah, he check calls 37,000. And the turn is a 10.
Definitely improving Scott's hand, giving him a pair of 10s to go along with his straight draw. Not a great card for Toby, but still definitely worth a second bet, especially with Toby's chip stack here. I think he's willing to bet and get all in.
158,000 in the middle. Toby's thinking about how much he wants to fire. And he settles on 65,000. Less than half the pot.
This leaves Toby with about 150,000 remaining in his stack.
Action back on Seiver. What's he thinking?
Well, he's thinking about the stacks. He's thinking about the equity he has in this hand. And he's decided that it's worth a call here for 65,000.
We'll see a river, 288,000 in the pot, and it's the ace of clubs.
And this is a card that will usually freeze the action, usually make it go check, check here.
Yeah, third club and an overcard to the 2 queens. Action on Seiver.
I'm all in.
And he moves all in.
Wow. And this is an illustration of what really separates the good players in poker from the truly great players. Scott Seiver, recognizing the fact that his pair of 10s is probably not good enough to win, understanding that he can put the pressure on Toby for his tournament life, Scott having Toby out-chipped, even if he were to lose this pot, would still be alive in the tournament. And remember that Toby doesn't have that many chips. He just knows that he beats absolutely nothing here.
And he folds the winner.
Yeah, he really, again, he doesn't beat very much. The only draw that Scott has that makes sense from Toby's point of view is maybe 5-6. But the flush draw got there, bunch of 2 pair hands got there, so it's really tough for Toby to call with just 2 queens. And Toby absolutely hating that spot that Scott put him in with just 1 pair and over twice his stack in the pot, but just feeling like he can't call it off for his tournament.
And such big jumps between the payouts make it even harder to pull the trigger in spots like that. Blinds and antes have gone up. Bad news for Toby's stack.
All in.
Toby now under 10 big blinds, which is why he moves in with Queen 2 suited, not a premium hand.
And Seiver looks down at King Jack suited.
Call.
Also in hearts, makes the call, and it's a big uphill climb for Toby if he wants to avoid elimination.
Toby a little bit fortunate that he's not dominated. Both his Queen and 2 are live.
The deuce is a hot, right? No? Oh, you're not rooting for me, but I'm not rooting for you, by the way, now. I'm not rooting for you either.
They're not rooting for each other. And the flop is 9 Queen 7, Toby. Fortunate to make the best hand here.
Not sure why they felt the need to point out that they weren't rooting for each other. I don't think anybody assumed that they were. Scott with a gut shot straight draw and an overcard, either a 10 or a king would give him the win.
Any other card, and Toby's going to be doubling through.
What about a 7 on the river?
Here comes the river. It's a jack. Seiver makes a pair, but not big enough. Toby is going to double up.
Almost heads up against me, Scott.
So close.
Almost.
What are you talking about? That's very disrespectful.
I think both Toby and Scott are in a short-handed scenario like this. Top 5 in the world at least, if not even better. And yeah, so this was like one of the toughest lineups possible, I think. And so I hope we will get to see those lineups more often.
In spite of that, it almost feels like Philip appreciates the opportunity to challenge himself against this kind of competition, and we differ in that way. I'd rather just find a couple of fish.
Yeah, you know, I really respect that comment from Phil. Even though he's obviously an incredibly talented player himself, he's able to, you know, be humble enough to give his opponents that type of respect.
Might explain some of his all-ins earlier, doesn't want to be faced with additional decisions, and maybe wants to get a little bit lucky against these guys.
Yeah, putting them to big decisions pre-flop so he doesn't have to make tough decisions post-flop. But again, Phil is such a talented player that I think he can hold his own.
He throws the 9-4 offsuit in from the button, giving Seiver a chance to just limp in with ace-10 off.
So how much do I even have? One.
Should have like 360.
You guys know. All right.
Happy to help.
Thanks.
Tobias has 7-deuce offsuit. Oh, but that's not going to stop him from trying to win this pot right now, raising to 55,000.
I'm all in.
And Seiver moves all in, making quick work of that bluff.
Yeah, Toby subscribing to the strategy of making aggressive moves with both the top and bottom of his range. Unfortunately for him, Scott had a big hand and he just had to let it go.
Well, Scott second in chips right now. Philip in the lead, Tobias in third.
That's 200.
Yeah, I just can see the pinks. I knew they were there, but I was confused.
More visible.
Gruesome looks down and sees a hard 8, pocket 4s. And he'll raise it up to 40,000. Ace-5 off for Scott, and a quick fold.
Yeah, the small blind is always a little bit tricky. I think it's a reasonable fold with a junk ace from Scott. He's out of position, and there is Toby behind him with just about 12 or 13 big blinds.
Toby with ace-3 off.
All in.
All in. It's less than 300, right?
Yeah.
All in, and blitz call, ace-3, all in, and
Yes, the wheel blocker, that sucks.
That's the brutal part.
It is really brutal, right?
He doesn't have 3-3 blocker though.
That's true.
He doesn't
and
have
no
that.
hard blocker either.
Oh, wow.
Hearts coming.
Ooh,
And the flop is 9-6 king with a couple of hearts.
Now it's always hearts coming.
Of course.
Like if it starts. Are you rooting for me?
Three.
Come on, root for me once.
Okay, 3.
Over a 4-1 favorite to win the pot here.
Ace. Got it for the ace, that's all there is.
All they got to do is dodge an ace, and we know that Seiver mucked one of those.
Clubs. Ace of clubs.
So it's 2 outs for Toby, and the 4 is not one of them. That gives Philip a set. Overkill, and he has busted his good friend and compatriot, Tobias Rankenmeyer.
Come here.
Okay, come here.
All right. GG, bro.
GG.
Sorry. That was just weird. Alrighty.
Good competition.
Yeah.
At least I didn't get second.
I think in a
That's something new.
Action continues. Heads up play begins right after this.
After 2 grueling days, 20 entries, and almost £2 million in play, we are now heads up. Philip Gruesome versus Scott Seiver. Who will be the one to conquer Alpha 8 London?
Scott Seiver is one of the toughest opponents in this field. He likes to bluff, he's creative, and he also has like good fundamental understanding what's going on.
Phil is just a relentless poker player. He's non-stop aggression and he's incredibly good at it.
Yeah, I always enjoy playing against him, so hopefully we keep it that way.
We'll see how all that mutual respect takes shape as we get heads-up action underway. Over £500,000 to second. over 862,000 pounds to first. That's what they're after.
We are that close to crowning our second Alpha 8 champion.
Heads-up play begins with Scott Seiver on the button, taking a look at pocket sixes. He makes it 45,000 to go, and it's ace-deuce suited for Philip Gruesome.
Two playable hands.
He will defend and will take a flop.
Out of these two players, Scott Seiver definitely has the edge in terms of experience playing heads-up. Scott's played a lot of heads-up online. He's a very, very talented, very good player.
King 10 Jack on the flop. Six is still ahead, but not in love with that board. Both players check.
Not a great flop for either player.
And the turn is a six. Seiver with a set of sixes now, but Gruesome has picked up a draw.
Yeah, Philip Gruesome turning the nut flush draw to go along with his gut shot and ace high.
He's gonna lead right out 65,000.
I actually wouldn't mind a raise here from Scott. It would look so odd to check the flop and then raise this card. But Scott electing to just call.
130,000 more into the middle, and the river card is an 8.
Now, if I was Philip and I had bet the turn with my draw and not gotten there, I would feel committed to betting the river. It's tough to just give up.
But that's exactly what Gruesome has done. Knuckling over to Scott, who has to feel comfortable with a set of sixes.
Oh, yeah. Maybe Philip picked up something on Scott. It's hard to tell.
That's 150,000.
Philip normally relatively aggressive, but Scott, with his huge set of sixes, does bet for value on the river, and Philip, with just ace high, can't call.
So advantage Scott Seiver in the early going. Gruesome now. Looks down at ace-queen.
Huge hand. Heads up.
Blinds are at 12 and 24,000. Philip makes it 50,000 to go. Scott defends with 7-3 suited, and look at this, ace-a-7 on the board. Seiver quickly checks.
Yes, Seiver's hand is not that strong, but on this board, it's actually pretty decent. Two aces makes it less likely that Philip has an ace, and Philip's going to continuation bet on a board like this with almost all of his hands that he raised pre-flop with.
Scott check calls 50,000, and on the turn, this is trouble.
Yeah, Scott makes a full house, but it's the under full house. Any ace in Philip's hand would have Scott drawing dead, or at least dead to quads.
Scott checks it, and this time, Philip bets.
Philip, in fact, does have the ace, as we can see, and elects to bet a relatively small amount, just 75,000 on the turn, when he bet 50,000 on the flop. I think trying to get some of Scott's weaker flop calls to continue, hands like king high.
River card is a 9, changing nothing. Seiver again checks.
Seiver staying in rhythm, continuing to check every street, knowing that the best he can do is get value from a bluff from Philip.
Now, Gruesome's job here is to come up with a number he thinks he can get paid off with. 350,000 in the middle. What is that number?
Well, at this point, I don't think Philip expects Scott to necessarily call on the river with a king, so he's hoping Scott does have a 7 and can bet a pretty healthy amount if he does.
Yes.
155,000 was the bet, and he did get paid off, as Seiver can't get away from 7s full.
Yeah, good bet size from Philip there, wins a nice healthy pot. Not much Scott can do. I think I like the way Scott played the hand throughout, just a little bit cooler with Philip having the bigger full house.
So Seiver takes a hand and Gruesome takes a hand. Back and forth these two go as the action continues from London.
What does Scott Seiver think is the most significant hand he's played all tournament?
I'm all in.
Log on to clubwpt.com and find out on the A8's Clip of the Week. Clubwpt.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
London Bridge, not the only bright spot in the city this evening. Two of poker's brightest stars are inside our tournament arena, vying for the WPT Alpha 8 London title.
We are heads up between American pro Scott Seiver and German pro Philip Gruesome, two of the top players in the world.
Last level. It's gonna be last level.
Gruesome on the button, declaring that this will be the last level. Blinds are at 15 and 30,000. Gruesome min raises to 60,000. Seiver calls with ace-3 of hearts. and the flop is deuce, queen, jack with a couple of hearts.
Yeah, big flop for both players. Scott flopping the nut flush draw and Phil Gruesome flopping top pair. We could even see it getting all in here depending on how Scott decides to play his flush draw.
Well, he has checked it over to Philip, who is betting 70,000.
Scott's thinking about whether he wants to raise or not. I think he has enough equity to get all in, but he does decide to just call and see a turn card.
And that turn card is a 4.
The 4 is actually a good card for both players. Scott turns a straight draw to go along with his flush draw, and Philip's going to feel pretty comfortable betting the turn for value. It's going to be tough if he wasn't beaten on the flop for him now to be beaten.
Scott did check it over to Philip, and with 260,000 in the middle, Gruesome is going to bet 145,000. What do you do if you're Seiver?
I think, again, Scott has two legitimate options. I mean, he did turn some more equity with his straight draw, and if he wants to raise and put pressure on Philip, I think that would be pretty reasonable. But again, he has so much equity that even this big bet by Philip, he could just check and call and hope to hit on the river, especially since that straight will be so disguised.
And let's see, the river is a queen, giving Gruesome trip queens. Seiver checks it over to Philip.
The pot's now about 550,000.
All in.
Gruesome moves all in.
Yeah, Gruesome has just under a pot-sized bet here. He wants to make this look like a bluff and maybe get called by, you know, just a pair of jacks if that's what Scott had. Now, Scott, thinking about it with ace high, I don't think he's genuinely contemplating this call. He does beat some hands because Philip could be bluffing with a missed flush draw of his own or maybe a missed straight draw. But ultimately, I think Scott has too many bigger hands in this spot to call with such a weak hand. Unless he gets a physical read from Phil, it's tough to make a call here with such a weak hand.
And Seiver is going to let it go along with a significant number of his chips, which slide over to Philip Gruesome, adding to his chip lead.
Bad river for me. Bad river. Very, very, very bad river.
Oh, yeah, flush draw.
Very bad river.
Blinds have gone up to 20 and 40,000 now. Seiver looks down at ace-7 offsuit and limps on the button.
Yeah, you see players limping a lot more once they get under, 30 big blinds heads up. Scott has shown that he's willing to limp with very strong hands, so Philip with king-jack offsuit deciding to play it cautious and just check behind. I actually like this play by Philip. King-jack plays pretty well in this spot. He can flop two big pairs.
4-6-7 on the board. Swing and a miss for Philip, but he's reaching for chips. Seiver, meanwhile, has top pair with an ace kicker.
Yeah, good flop for Scott, and I don't love this lead by Philip. This board is going to hit a decent amount of Scott's limping in range, and Philip really doesn't have much equity of his own.
55,000, bet and called.
Not to mention Philip is, of course, out of position versus Scott.
The turn is a 9 of spades.
So if Philip was leading with a flush draw, he's now hit it. We, in fact, know that Phil just has one spade in his hand, the king of spades. So he's gone from not much equity to now a king-high flush draw.
He bets 115,000.
This card not great for Scott Seiver. Scott having just a pair of sevens. If Philip was leading with a flush draw, like we said, he would have a flush, or with a straight draw, he would either have a straight or potentially even a pair of nines, which would also beat Scott's pair of sevens.
And the river is a 3, puts 4 to a straight out there, 420,000 in the middle. And what do you do if you're Philip Gruesome? You've been called not once but twice. Can you fire a third barrel?
Yeah, I mean, that's another one of those tests between the good players and the great players in poker. The great players are able to fire that third bullet. And personally, there's no way in Philip's mind that he can think he's good here, so he does feel the need to bet to win. And from Scott's point of view, the 3 is just another terrible card. Now, any 5 is a straight, and he doesn't really beat much.
And Gruesome bets 175,000, and Seiver folds the best hand.
Yeah, you can't really blame Scott for folding there. He doesn't really beat much. I don't think he was expecting Philip to necessarily be bluffing 3 times in a row with such a weak hand, or hand that had so little equity on the flop.
Scott, what do you think is who is the best live hold'em heads-up player? No limit.
I don't know. Live? I don't know.
Tough question there by Philip. One of the reasons is that heads up is played so much more often online than it is live. A lot of these guys don't get a chance to play that much heads up live, so Scott probably doesn't have that much experience playing heads up live against that many different opponents, and most opponents just haven't played that many hands to build up a sample size.
All in.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, looks like the time has come. Scott Seiver sails off with King Queen off.
Richard, look at this.
All in, for you, Richard.
Richard Young and Igor step to the table.
Who against who?
Who against who? I have a very smart question.
No, which hand against which hand? Which hand's against which hand? Who is a jack against...
Where's my... Richard, where's my group?
Hey, sure.
Where's my group of people?
We get to the flop, which is 9, Jack 4.
Hey guys, I'm winning.
Who has what?
Spade. Spade, yeah, 10. I just wanted spade. I just said spade, but Richard says 10.
8 of spades. 8 of spades. Spade.
Turn card is a 5.
Spade.
Scott looking for a king, queen, or 10 to stay alive. Otherwise, Philip will be our champion.
Are you on? 5.
Here comes the river. It's a 4. And Philip Gruesome is your WPT Alpha 8 London champion. Well, Scott Seiver certainly did his best, but it felt like tonight it was just destined to be Philip Gruesome.
Yeah, Philip, with that dangerous combination of great play and a good run of cards, seemed pretty much unstoppable tonight.
And he's joined by Lynn Gilmartin.
Well, Philip, congratulations. Alpha 8 London champion, £862,000. That's almost 1.4 million US dollars. Huge prize money. What's going through your head right now?
I'm very happy. I'm stunned that I beat this competition. It was the toughest table I've ever played.
Absolutely. And now you have this amazing trophy. It's huge.
Yeah, we won't have an 888 in our apartment. I told that before. Yeah.
Oh yeah, you're gonna get 3 of them.
Yeah, we're trying.
Okay. Well, huge congratulations to the Alpha 8 London champion, Philip Gruesome. For Ali Najad, Olivier Bousquet, I'm Lynn Gilmartin. We'll see you at the next Alpha 8. Welcome to poker's most exclusive room. A seat at this table will cost you at least $100,000, but it could earn you millions. This is WPT Alpha 8. We are at South Florida's hottest gaming destination, the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, for the first in our series of super high roller events. Here at Alpha 8, the game is Texas Hold'em, and today's buy-in is $100,000. I'm Lynn Gilmartin, ready to bring you VIP access to the elite world of high-stakes poker. I'm joined by our top-notch commentators, Ali Najad and Olivier Bousquet. They have a bird's-eye view of all the action from the ClubWPT.com skybox. Guys, how's it looking up there?
Well, this is, of course, the best view in the tournament room, and Olivier and I are excited to be feasting our eyes on some of the world's most talented players as they're going to be ponying up at least $100,000 in the hopes of taking home that coveted and first ever Alpha 8 title.
That's right, Ali. And if you think 100,000 is a lot, if any of these players bust out of the tournament in the first 6 levels, they have the option of putting up another 100,000 and trying again.
Sure, what's another 100K? After all, it is a re-entry event.
Now, poker players are notorious late starters, so it's actually pretty common in these big buy-in events for the fields to start off relatively small, and then as the end of registration approaches, for more and more players to register. Right now we have 14 players, and I think that number will grow slightly since the end of registration is 1 more level away.
Well, we'll certainly find out soon enough. There are currently 2 tables in action, and our feature table has a nice mix of both young pros and brazen businessmen. Chief among them, of course, Texas millionaire Bill Perkins, who's chatting everyone up. And as you can see, despite the amount of money at risk, it seems like everybody's pretty relaxed out there.
Enjoy to get Jake or something like that. Not that far.
Fort Lauderdale, here.
Fort Lauderdale, hometown favorite.
Hometown.
Vegas.
Looks like Bill Perkins is trying to nail down where everybody's from.
People with it's pretty interesting. Home audience can root for.
Lines are at 500 and 1,000.
Okay.
Perkins lays down. Options trader Daniel Perper does the same. Folded around to Andrew Lichtenberger, who looks down at a couple of black sevens.
22.
Yeah, Lichtenberger is one of the toughest and most well-respected pros in all of poker.
So what'd you got, Chewy?
36 behind.
Another very tough player, Jason Kuhn here with ace-king, a huge hand in the small blind.
Jason Kuhn currently lives between Vancouver and Vegas, as many pros do, maintaining a residence outside the United States to be able to continue to play online. Kuhn ran track for West Virginia Wesleyan College. He's also helped some of the other pros get fit. Kuhn settles on a total of 6,800.
Slightly larger than standard 3-bet, a little more than 3 times Andrew's open.
And Andrew, faced with the decision, is moving all in.
Instantly called by Jason's ace-king.
Well, it's going to be a race here. Jason doesn't seem to love it. He is a slight dog heading to the flop.
Both players seem pretty much resigned to their fate at this point. Andrew's going to have to win a race to stay alive in this tournament.
Maybe a little more aggressive than he needed to be this early?
I think it's close. It's just a very, very tough spot. Calling such a big raise with just 2 sevens is tough.
Well, if you thought it was tough before, it's gotten even tougher now. Look at that board. Ace 3-10, Kuhn in the lead now on the all-heart flop.
Just an atrocious flop for 2 black sevens. Even the 7 of hearts doesn't win now for Andrew.
Yeah, Andrew's down to 1 out once here on the end. Only the 7 of diamonds. Otherwise, it's time for another 100,000 or a goodbye. He can't connect.
Good luck, gents. Nope.
Well, the man they call Chewy because his mom used to pack him granola bars is dishing out hugs.
Maybe? Yeah.
Going through your head right now?
No, just wasn't a great day of poker. Did my best, got in a lot of spots. Most of them didn't work out. That's why I'm here.
Oh, now it is a re-entry tournament. Do you have a second bullet, or that's it?
Yeah, I'm just not really feeling it after busting out, so just gonna hang out and wait for the next tournament.
Okay, fair enough. Well, good to see you here, and best of luck next time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it never feels good when you bust out of 100K. I've been there myself, and I know how it feels.
So Andrew Lichtenberger is the first bust out of the tournament, but we've had hours of action leading up to this point. It began with a single table of 7 players, each boasting over $1 million in live tournament cashes, including options trader Dan Perper, seasoned pro Jeff Gross, cash game phenom Isaac Haxton, and poker prodigy Steven Silverman. They were quickly joined by 2013 WSOP November 9er and 2007 WPT Player of the Year, J.C. Tran. Florida's own Jason Mercier used his home turf advantage against the field. Here we see him picking up a big pot against Kansas entrepreneur Brandon Steven, worth about $25,000 in chips and the early chip lead. With gaming executive Tom Hall's arrival, a second table was opened up, making room for venture capitalist Bill Perkins and legendary Hall of Famer Eric Seidel. Before long, we saw Silverman push all in on a board filled with clubs. WPT champ and WSOP 4-time bracelet winner Danny Alaei called with a straight flush draw against Silverman's nut flush. The river was no help to Alaei, who was left crippled with only $5,000 left in his stack. But over the last hour, Alaei has actually doubled up, not once, not twice, but 3 times through a luckless Dan Shack. But Alaei is still at the bottom of the field with only about $32,000 in chips.
We have a really tough field here that's just gotten a little tougher as seasoned vet Matt Glantz has bought in and drawn a seat here at our feature table. But over at the outer table, Daniel Alaei is fighting for his tournament life.
Indeed he is. Daniel is all in with top pair against Ike Haxton's flush draw. You pick up the action after the flop. The turn is the 3 of clubs. Daniel is drawing dead, and he wastes no time heading for the exit. Yeah, it looks like Daniel's day might be done unless they've upped the maximum withdrawal limit at the ATM. I don't think you can get 100 grand out all at once, though.
Yeah, we'll just have to wait and see if he re-enters.
Meanwhile, the action's been folded around to J.C. Tran, who takes a peek at ace-king of hearts, and he's going to raise it up to 2,200 from the button.
Absolute monster for JC. And here we see Jason with an ace in the small blind. It's kind of an awkward position for ace-8 offsuit. I think you can make an argument for really any of the 3 plays. I think you could even fold here. You could 3-bet, It looks like Jason's going to decide to just call. I think part of his motivation for calling is that Mac Lance in the big blind is a little tighter than some other pros, and he's a little less likely to squeeze.
He's got Queen 7 of diamonds here, but he doesn't like 5-1 on his money and pitches it.
That's a very conservative fold there in the big blind. I don't think many pros would have made that fold.
Well, we've got some ace-on-ace violence coming up. Queen high board, glance with a flop top pair. Instead, Jason's checking his ace-8 over to JC.
And though there's a flush draw, this board is relatively dry. Looks like JC's going to take a shot with a continuation bet, even though he doesn't have a pair here.
2,300 into a pot of 6,100.
Slightly on the smaller side, but pretty decent, pretty standard play so far.
Well, this doesn't look too standard. Kuhn's calling.
Yeah, it looks like Jason's decided to float here out of position. I think I would have preferred it if he had the ace of clubs instead of the 8 of clubs. But I think he thinks that JC Tran is a little bit less likely to continue firing, and since JC doesn't pick up any more equity on the turn, looks like he's right.
Yep, check, check on the turn. Here comes the river, the jack of hearts.
Looks like, again, Jason has two legitimate options. He could check and hope that his ace high is good, but looks like he's not going to hope that and take a shot himself.
Not going to chance it, and he fires 3,200 into a pot of 10,700.
It's a pretty small bet here, but looks like it's going to work because JC really beats nothing with his hand. Even 2 clubs with a 9 or a jack are better than his hand now, so he does lay down, and Jason wins the pot.
Ace. Number one, I'm a very hard worker. I may be the hardest worker in poker, and I play the game out of joy and fulfillment. I don't play it for money, so it gives me a freedom at the table that a lot of people don't have.
Oh, I call. I'm not buying it.
Yeah, it's tough to speak to the motivation that Jason has when he plays, but I can attest to his hard work. He's a very studious player.
Speaking of motivation, young Joseph Chong has entered the building, eager to play the event, but he has apparently done so without the full 100,000 necessary to enter. He's on the campaign trail looking to raise some funds here. He's actually got 99,000 in the backpack, Olivier. If we can just drum up another grand, he's good to go. How much do you have on you?
Well, Joe's a really good player. I'm sure it won't be that tough for him to raise the requisite funds.
We're back now at the feature table where Jason Kuhn's pocket 8s open the pot for a raise to 2,200. Jeff Gross with ace 10 suited re-raised to a total of 5,500. Bill Perkins somehow couldn't resist with jack 5 suited. Kuhn has called. We take the flop 3-way. And Kuhn has flopped a set of 8s. Monster here against his 2 opponents. And he's opting to just check over to Jeff Gross.
Yeah, Jason's hand is so strong. You know, at this point, I think he can decide either to play passively and continue to trap his opponents, or even to play aggressively and try to get stacks in here.
Of course, he's trying to trap, and Jeff Gross has just put a foot in that trap. Well, it looks like Joseph Chong has raised the necessary capital, and he is taking his seat at the outer table, adding 1 more to our field. Meanwhile, back at the feature table, Jason has check called. He bet of 11,500 out of Jeff.
So he does elect the trap or passive strategy.
Well, the turn brings a 3rd spade on the board.
Yeah, the jack of spades is a pretty interesting card. I think it'll probably prevent Jeff from continuing to be aggressive in the hand. Now, this jack of spades puts a flush out on the board, and it looks like Jason's even going to break the rhythm of the hand and lead out here on the turn.
Now, is there any chance in Jeff's mind that this lead looks weak and he might be thinking hero thoughts right now?
I think Jeff is probably posturing more than anything else here. He just doesn't have enough equity to continue in the hand.
And sure enough, Jeff Gross's ace 10 of hearts hits the muck, sending a pot of over 60,000 over to Jason Kuhn, who is now sitting on about 106K. Chip leader at the table, still Jason Mercier with about 191,000, while short stack duties belong to Daniel Perper with about 56,000. Meanwhile, the accessory duties are apparently being held by Jeff Gross. I don't know about you, Olivier, but I didn't pack a scarf to South Florida, but somehow Jeff Gross did.
It can get cold inside those casinos.
Normally, the scarves belong to Lynn Gilmartin, but on this occasion, she decided that she would dress for warm weather and go in search of the sort of sharks that you more typically find in South Florida, not the poker players.
We're in the Billy Swamp Safari on the Big Cypress Reservation in the Everglades. This land is actually owned by the Seminole tribe, which is the same tribe that owns the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino. So they've sent us out here for a day of adventure. Oh gosh, but we sure are in for one. Let's go. I'm driving a boat through rollerblades. Can't say you do that every day. Woo! Wow! Well, this was a lot more fun and less scary than I thought. I can't believe I'm this close to an alligator, but I definitely feel a lot more at ease at the poker room, that's for sure. I'm joined by ClubWPT.com VIP member Artie Rodriguez. Artie, I met you last night at the Alpha 8 player party. It was right here at Seminole Hard Rock Casino at Martirano's. A lot of fun.
Tremendous party. You guys throw a great party. You get to meet the top flight names in the world of poker. These guys are playing, you know, in the biggest tournaments in the world, including the one here today, and I loved it.
Tell us about the experience of going to parties like that and being a member of the club.
You know what? That membership has paid for itself many times, and it's just a tremendous value. You can't beat it in poker.
How long do you think it'll take for you to be taking a seat at this table?
Definitely a couple of zeros short of that type of an entry, but you know, I had that opportunity thanks to Club WPT. I'm not done yet, though. I hope to see you guys again, and maybe right here.
Yeah, already parlayed that Club WPT buy into the WPT event into $55,000. Not too shabby as we take a look at the current chip counts at our feature table. You see Jason Mercier, the chip leader, Daniel Perper, still on the short stack. And the action is on Daniel Perper, former member of the University of Illinois bowling team. And he's going to roll 2,000 out into the pot with ace-8 suited.
Yeah, Perper decides to min-raise here with ace-8 of hearts under the gun seven-handed. I think ace-8 of hearts is kind of in between, you know, a raise and a call. I think either would be reasonable. The min-raise has become basically the fashion in the last few years.
Defense.
Because they can play more hands, and they get basically giving themselves a cheaper price at winning the pot pre-flop.
Right, and the flop heads up with Bill Perkins, who has flopped a two-way straight draw.
Yep.
Perper has flopped middle pair. Both players check it.
One of the consequences of min-raising is that you end up giving the big blind a very good price, and you see players defending their big blind much wider than they used to.
2,500.
Well, the turn brings a 5 of clubs.
Yeah, it looks like Perkins has turned to 10 high flush draw with his two-way straight and takes a shot after getting a check from the raiser Perper on the flop.
Perper, of course, called the turn. And now the river, swing and a miss for Bill Perkins.
So we're going to see if Perkins is willing to take another shot here on the river. I would like a bet here, even though he doesn't have a hand. He's had equity throughout the hand, and he's shown some aggression, so it makes sense for him to continue the aggression, even though he's missed his hand.
I call.
Snap call out of Daniel Perper after Bill bet 5,500.
And you can see that Perper, with his second pair top kicker and backdoor flush draw, had a plan for the hand. When he checked back the turn, it looks like he was just planning on calling two streets, and looks like it worked out for him.
I don't even want to know.
Yeah, it's funny that Bill got drawn to the seat next to me because we play a lot together.
He prides himself on reading people's hands, and he can read me really well. Might have worked on a different planet. You had like slightly one different.
Jeff Gross is actually Bill Perkins' poker coach.
Even after the hand's over, sometimes he'll be like, oh, can I show? And I'll just say no, you know, because the other guys are really strong players, so like you can't give him anything. And you know, he likes to show whether he's bluffing or has it. He just loves showing, and I'm like, you know, don't do that. So I try to keep him in line.
Good advice there from poker coach Jeff Gross. I think it's probably a good idea to conceal as much information from these top pros as possible.
Some poker buddies, but they're not my
Jason Kuhn
friends, you know what I'm saying?
with King-Queen offsuit opens for a raise to 2,300. Action to Jeff Gross. Jeff went to University of South Carolina on a soccer scholarship, actually has a degree in marketing. Back over to Bill now with King-7 offsuit.
Bill Perkins is definitely the most active player at this table, playing the most hands, playing them the most unpredictably.
And he's going to 3-bet with King-7 off to 6,500. Didn't expect that. A little bit of steam from the last pot?
Potentially. You know, he's in position here, and he does have a king. I don't mind this 3-bet, but I think it's a little bit ambitious.
And if you're Kuhn, you can't lay down.
You could actually. King-Queen offsuit doesn't play that well out of position in a 3-bet pot, but I think, you know, Jason feels that he has such a post-flop edge against Bill that he's willing to take a shot with a slightly, you know, less than premium hand.
And the board is ace, deuce, king, couple of spades out there. Jason, of course, with the better of the two kings.
I think this would have been a decent spot for Bill to just check. He does have middle pair with a weak kicker, so he does have some, you value to his hand, but not enough to to bet 3 times. So I think a check on the flop I would have preferred to this flop bet.
Potentially trying to rep the ace, betting a call of 7,000 on the flop, and now we come to the turn. 9 of spades, puts a third spade on board.
Definitely check here if I was Bill Perkins.
And indeed he does after Jason checks to him. Both players, of course, picked up a flush draw. Jason's is better, and both players have completed the flush now. Jason with the second nuts, giving Bill a little bit of rope here. He obviously isn't worried about Bill having the ace of spades.
Well, it's not so much about worrying as it is about just staying in rhythm with the hand. He can kind of tell a lot from what Bill Perkins does here on the river.
Which is a bet of 5,000 into a pot of 29-2.
Yeah, I don't like this bet at all, really.
Undersized.
It's too small, and I don't like his hand to bet with. I mean, I think the 7 of spades here is actually the perfect hand to check. It's a little too strong to bluff with, and it's a little too weak to get value out of. And looks like he's going to be put in an awkward spot as Jason Kuhn check raises, correctly determining that his queen of spades, even though it's not the nuts, is still the best hand, and trying to extract extra value from it.
Perkins is looking like he may not release here.
Yeah, I think the majority of pros would fold in this situation. If anything, Bill has kind of leveled himself with such a small bet on the river. He feels like maybe it looked weak, and now Jason's capitalizing on that weakness by trying to make a play here. What he doesn't realize is that it was really more transparent than weak, and that Jason is able to correctly identify that his queen of spades is good and is now trying to get more value.
Call. Oh, and Bill pays it off. Well, Kuhn didn't get as far as he has in poker by making mistakes or leaving money on the table, that's for sure.
Could have just rolled it over. Could have just rolled it over.
Could have checked the river.
Just could have checked, but no.
And Jeff Gross giving Bill Perkins a little real-time feedback on that particular hand.
Welcome back to WPT Alpha 8 Florida. We're in the middle of day 1 at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino, where a collection of talented poker pros and impressive tycoons have invested $100,000 each in hopes of becoming the Alpha 8.
Registration is actually still open to new players, and re-entry is open for those who have busted out as well. But is there any chance either of those things happen at this point?
Well, for players who have busted out, sometimes it takes, a little bit of time to kind of regroup and then decide to re-enter. So I could see that happening. In terms of late registration, you see this a lot in big buy-in tournaments, and frankly, I don't really get it. The only strategic reason I could see is that people who feel less comfortable with deeper stacks might want to enter, but otherwise I think you're just giving up value the later you register.
Well, we're back at our feature table where we pick up the action post-flop. Bill Perkins in a 3-way hand. He raised pre-flop and flop top and bottom pair. Now we're at the turn. Perkins' ace is up, still the best hand. Perper in a bit of trouble with ace-queen.
Yeah, I think Perper's hand here is definitely worth 2 bets. Matt Glantz, I'm pretty sure, will just fold his hand after taking a shot on the flop. The key will be the river. If a king, 8, or queen doesn't come off, will Perper be able to get away from just top pair good kicker here?
Well, against a guy like Bill Perkins, he may not, and we've seen him play this sort of passive, allow Bill to control the action approach against him already. A little over 40,000 in the pot. Value time for Perkins, and he comes up with 25,000. Snap call from Dan Perper.
Big pot, big bet there from Bill, and gets paid off by Perper. Like you said, I think Bill's reputation as a very active player, bluffing rivers, got him paid off there. I think Perper could have reasonably found a fold, but it's tough in this particular situation.
Or something like that. Ace queen, ace jack.
Lots of things were big about that last hand, including the look of disappointment on Perper's face, who is now down to 24,400, while Perkins is up to 126K.
Perper entering that desperate zone of about 25 big blinds. He still has a little bit of time to be patient, but he should be looking for certain spots to get his chips in.
King 6 offsuit, not going to be one of them, as he folds over to the chip leader, Jason Mercier, and he min raises with 7-5 suited.
Yeah, I think Jason is taking advantage of his chip lead. He's going to open a little wider than usual with a lot of chips. And also, he's just such a good post-flop player that 7-5 suited, not the strongest hand in the world, but can make a lot of interesting hands, and he feels comfortable playing in position.
King Jack offsuit, certainly worthy of a defense from Jeff Gross in the big blind. And Jeff is flop top pair on the Jack 9-7 board. Meanwhile, bottom pair for Mercier.
Jeff could have decided to 3-bet pre-flop. King Jack is actually a pretty good hand to 3-bet with.
Action goes check, check on the flop.
Don't like this check on the turn by Jeff. Definitely worth the bet there, and he does let Jason get there on the river.
Yeah, Mercier turned the gut shot straight draw and has now hit it on the river. Both players did check that turn, and now Gross bets 2,000 on the end.
Yeah, it looks like Jeff is bluffing, I think, with a jack, but I think his hand is too strong to bluff with and not strong enough to bet for value.
I think I win.
So Jason makes an easy call there with the rivered straight.
Just because he's the hometown favorite, you can't beat him. Just gets there.
Modest pot adds to the chip leader stack.
Hometown card.
And the crowd goes wild.
There are a lot of good players in this event, and I'm just going to avoid the one that's, in a good zone. And right now it seems like Jason Mercier is one of those guys.
Jason Mercier was quite an intimidating presence at the table. I find him difficult to play against.
My good friend Jason Mercier is one player I'd like to avoid.
Jason Mercier's on my left, and he's tough.
I most want to avoid probably Jason.
Hometown, running well, playing well.
Jason Mercier is our homegrown hero down here in South Florida, and he was kind enough to invite us into his new pad. Amazing.
Yeah, this is it's kind of a nice backyard. It's always nice to stand up there, look out at the ocean.
Do you reckon this would help you, before playing a poker tournament, coming to a place like this to really sort of center yourself?
Of course, yeah. I mean, this is like being in Florida, like out on the pool deck, 25 stories up.
With such an amazing view, I was eager to see the rest of Jason's home.
This is my new place, yep.
It's simple.
Yeah, simple, exactly.
It's very manly.
So the master's not exactly set up yet.
Simple.
You gotta get rid of this fan. I don't like that thing. Simple.
Nice.
Gets the job done.
He keeps it clean.
Yeah, this is my trophy case.
Wow.
All the things that I've
Look at you,
won and
high
whatnot.
achiever.
Got the 2 World Series bracelets. This is the 100K that I won at Bellagio. This is the open face, my most recent one.
Of course he has an open face Chinese trophy. This guy's addicted to that game. There's another game close to Jason's heart.
All right, so now we're gonna play some basketball.
Yes.
It's so nice to have a court in my own building. I've actually been playing 3 to 5 times a day.
You're playing more basketball than poker.
It's been like a camp almost. Yeah.
I mean, you're still pretty rusty though. What? I was expecting a better performance.
I've been out here for 5 minutes.
Keep practicing.
I'll try.
All right.
Blinds and antes have gone up to 6 and 1,200. Jason Mercier has cleared the 200K mark and maintains the chip lead at our feature table. Bill Perkins is going to kick off the action in this hand with Jack 9 suited, making it 2,500 to go.
Here he comes, the hometown favorite from 15 minutes away, and a pool on a roof.
Oh, man. Jason Mercier getting a little bit of a hard time. Not so hard a time for JC Tran, who's been gifted aces on the button.
Just goes in set mining and just holds.
JC on the button here with pocket aces. This hand is going to look less than premium because he's on the button, 3-betting a very active and less experienced player in Bill Perkins. And look at this, Jason Kuhn with pocket kings in the small blind. This is just a disaster for Jason.
It's 6,100 total for Jason to call, and he's bumped it up to 14,500.
Well, fold.
Pretty trivial fold here for Bill.
And now back over to JC. What do you do in this spot? Do you try to get it all in now, or do you wait and try to let your opponent bluff off the rest of his stack?
I would probably just trap and call here in position with aces. It looks like he does decide to 5-bet, and this is almost always going to be a disaster for Jason Kuhn. It really would make no sense for him to make any other play besides just going all in here with 2 black kings.
Mullen.
Yep, sure enough, there's the all-in, and there is the call. Get a look, boys. That's what we call a cooler.
This is one of those unavoidable spots. You just really hope to be on the right side of it.
Yeah, I'm on. Jason, the good news is you can't get knocked down. Thanks, buddy. The second good news is you have 5 cards to come.
That is good news. Glad the hand isn't over yet.
And we know that 2 of the kings have been folded, so the only way Jason can win is if he hits some sort of flush or straight with one of his kings.
Well, he certainly can't make the flush in clubs, as JC has the larger of the two clubs with the ace.
Another thing that's important to note about this hand is how deep they are. I mean, Jason has 100 big blinds, so this is an absolutely huge pot in this position.
It's gonna be a tough one to win.
The door card.
And this flop basically seals the deal here.
Two kings roll behind that door.
Looks like Jason is going to be pretty much crippled after this hand.
Yeah, he's drawing dead as of the flop. No kings remaining in the deck, and he can't hit running clubs. The run out is a moot point as they count down the stacks. Now, Kuhn did have JC covered by a little bit.
Looks good.
But he's on life support at this point, and he's letting the world know about it, apparently, as he's got his phone out.
It's like sick cooler.
A good flat for Jack 9.
Good thing I didn't flat the trap, huh?
It's pretty brutal there for Jason Kuhn.
Now we get over to the outer table, big pot brewing between Joseph Chong and former WPT champ Eric Seidel. Joseph rolling over Jack 7 for top pair. On a Jack high board, Eric Seidel laying his hand down, and Chong stealing one away from a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, Eric Seidel, really one of the legends of poker, one of my personal poker heroes.
2,500.
Now, one of my poker heroes has got to be Bill Perkins. He is never discouraged. Right back in the saddle with ace-4 offsuit. He makes it 2,500 to go, and it's a couple of fours for a very short stack Dan Perper. This could be it.
Yeah, Perper with just around 8 big blinds, I don't think has much of a choice here with a pocket pair, especially against someone as active as Bill Perkins.
He makes it 9,000 total.
And this shows a little bit of Perkins' inexperience as he raises under the gun with a weak ace, kind of not being cognizant enough of the other player's chip stacks. Perper with a very short stack goes all in here, and Perkins might feel committed to call with an ace. Looks like he's instantly calling, and
we don't have each other's cards.
He's not going to like what he sees here.
No.
I'm sure that's.
Meanwhile, Dan Perper will love what he sees. He had to have figured he was up against at least 2 overcards.
So lucky.
I thought you were going to say you're crushed with like.
No, you're so lucky.
When he says like, no
cards, I figured he didn't have a pair.
Perper feeling a little bit more comfortable now that he sees that Perkins just has the raggedy ace.
He's about a 3-2 favorite heading to the flop. Not out of the woods yet, though. Got to fade 5 cards.
Queen Jack or something like that, King 10.
When you said you hope they didn't have the same cards, you weren't worried about the 4.
And oh, wouldn't you know it, an ace right away in the window on the flop. And suddenly it's Bill Perkins who is sitting pretty. Daniel Perper has 1 out.
Yeah, Perkins' ragged kicker has come in handy now as it takes one of the 4s away from Perper, who really is drawing extremely thin here to stay alive.
Yeah, 1 card in the deck that'll save him, and the Jack of Spades is not it.
Yeah. Wait, I want that shit. Good playing with you.
Yeah, you too.
Chicago is.
I may be back.
Come back.
See how crazy I am? See how crazy I feel?
Bill Perkins has busted Daniel Perper, who doesn't appear to be on his way to a re-entry.
So Daniel, I'm sorry to see you be eliminated, but you seem like you're in high spirits still.
Yeah,
Tell us
I feel
what
okay.
happened.
I just didn't go my way today. I'm thinking about coming back, so that's a little part of the reason I'm not so dejected.
Yes.
But it's a lot of money, so I have to decide how crazy I feel, and yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know.
Are there any sort of true deciding factors about other players that might enter, or what will be the pushing point for you?
I'm just gonna see if my wife talks me out of it or not.
Okay.
That's the plan.
Fair enough. All right. Well, very best of luck. I hope we see you come back.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thanks.
Take an exclusive look at how Bill Perkins gave Jason Mercier and the other pros a run for their money. Log on to ClubWPT.com and check out the A8's Clip of the Week. ClubWPT.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
Welcome back to the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino here in sunny South Florida as our inaugural WPT Alpha 8 event rolls on. Current chip counts, JC Tran is your new chip leader with over $250,000 in front of him, and on the short stack is Jason Kuhn in that danger zone like you talk about, Olivier, with just around 17,000. As we pick up 6-handed action at the feature table.
So with 6 here, there's 7 at the outer table. That makes a total of 13 left in this tournament.
Folded around to Matt Glantz, and everybody's favorite, 2 aces.
Also on the button, where he's going to be given less credit than usual.
Matt raises to 2,700 to go. Jeff Gross in the small blind with the Bill Perkins, ace-4 offsuit.
Yeah, you know, Matt Glantz is going to raise a little bit less liberally than some of the other pros. I actually like this fold here from Jeff Gross with a weak ace, out of position from the small blind.
It's Jack 4 suited for Perkins in the big blind, and with those blinds at 6 and 1200, he'll plop another 1500 out there and defend.
Yep, tough to make Bill Perkins fold his big blind.
Oh, and it may be even tougher for him to fold at this point. Jack 10-3 with a couple of spades on the flop. Perkins checks top pair over to Glance. And with 7,200 out there, Glance fires 3,000 into the pot.
It's a relatively wet or textured board here, which means that there are a number of draws, a number of straight draws and a flush draw as well.
It's a check raise from Bill Perkins, min raise to 6,000.
Yeah, this is pretty unorthodox play. I don't think any of the pros would have made this type of raise, especially with this type of hand.
Yeah, and Glance just called to 3,000, getting us to the turn with an 8. Bill Perkins with control of the betting. Yes. And top pair weak kicker settles on 6,000.
Yeah, bets the same amount, another 6,000. His hand actually looks pretty weak here, but the 8 is not a great card for Matt. It does make a couple straights, and I think it's pretty reasonable for him to just check call on the turn.
Look at this disaster river card for Glance's aces. Perkins now with the best hand with trip jacks. And with 31,000 out there, he bets 6,000 again.
Yeah, it's a little bit strange because if Matt did have a jack, a hand like queen jack, king jack, or ace jack, that jack doesn't change the situation. He still has a better hand. So Bill's not really in a position to make a huge bet there. He does get paid off by pocket aces, and I think Matt's feeling pretty good that he lost such a small pot when his aces got cracked.
Experimental.
Well, I don't think you ever feel good about getting your aces cracked.
It's all relative.
Keep it in perspective, right? It certainly could have been worse for Matt Glance as he sends a good-sized pot over to Bill Perkins. J.C. Tran, the chip leader. Next to Jason Kuhn, who has just declared all in. J.C., of course, in the big blind. Jason under the gun, and ace-8 offsuit is what he's drawn a line in the sand with, 11,300 to call.
And under the gun six-handed is ace-8 offsuit is definitely, strong enough for him to move in. Bill Perkins on the button with ace-4 offsuit. I think this would not be a very good call, and he recognizes that and folds.
Oh, you know that would not be a very good call.
Very good. King queen.
JC in the big blind can call a little bit more wide because there's no one after him.
Exactly the hand that you were hoping for him to say.
When the chip went in that quick, yep.
Yeah. You're like,
Yeah. Maybe ace-7 suited, but I doubt it. He might have been like,
I should have said aces.
Yeah.
I would have been on the ground somewhere.
I'm all in for 11,300 chips.
Well, Kuhn's ace-8 ever so slight a favorite against JC's king-queen heading to the flop. And JC, of course, responsible for the damage that's been done, and it continues. King-high flop, and JC gives him almost a sympathetic look there.
Sometimes in poker when it rains, it pours, and when you're running bad, it feels like you just can't avoid bad beats.
Much, does it? Seven of spades. Take it like a red.
Well, look at this. Kuhn has picked up a straight flush draw.
Yeah,
7 of spades will work. Any 7 for that matter will work. Or ace. Can he hit and stay alive? No. Board pairs, and that spells the end of this buy-in for Jason Kuhn.
Yeah.
Will he re-enter?
I'll take one.
Just ran into the JC Tran buzzsaw. 2 hands, and Jason went from a great stack to out of the tournament just like that.
Wow, today cost him 50,000 a hug. With Kuhn's departure, the feature table is down to 5-handed action for the time being.
Jason, tell us what happened.
Pretty standard. Ace in the door, and that's that.
You can't avoid it, huh? But
Yeah.
it is still early. It's a re-entry event. Do you have a second bullet?
I'll be at the next one.
Meanwhile, over at the outer table, Steven Silverman finds himself all in against Tom Hall's ace-king with 2 queens. Classic race, flop is safe, turn is safe, and now all Silverman needs to do is avoid an ace or a king on the river, which he does, and he'll be doubling up through Tom Hall.
And because Jason busted and now they're at 7 at the outer table, 5 at the feature table, they're going to move a player from this table to balance out the 2 tables. We'll have to see who that is.
Oh, look, everyone's favorite if you're at the feature table. Ike Caxton, just a fish.
Yeah, Ike, one of the top online heads-up cash players. Definitely not a sight anyone at the table wants to see.
No, bad news for those 5. Alpha 8 is brought to you by ClubWPT.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
Welcome back to A8 at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in South Florida. Brought to you by ClubWPT.com.
With the blinds steady at 6 and 1200, here's a look at the stacks. J.C. Tran currently the chip leader, and newcomer Isaac Haxton is sitting on about 150,000. Button is on Matt Glantz. Jeff Gross and Bill Perkins in the blinds. Mercier, who is second in chips, first to act, pitches.
No, he wasn't then.
As does J.C. Tran, and Isaac Haxton looks down at aces.
Welcome to the feature table.
Yeah, no kidding. Now, he doesn't have a table image yet, but as we know, no one at this table is going to be thinking that Ike is going to be anything other than his usual self, which is super solid. As he makes it 3,000 to go.
Bill Perkins going to defend the big blind with Jack-8 off here.
For an extra 1,800. He'll be heads up going to the flop. And that flop is King, Queen, 10. Open-ended straight draw for Bill, who checks it over to Ike. Ike has the best hand with the 2 aces, and of course, a Broadway draw as well.
This is not the best flop for Ike. There are a number of hands that have connected and have a lot of equity or are either ahead of 2 aces here. Ike makes a relatively decent-sized continuation bet of 5,500.
And it's back over to Bill, who looks like he's reaching for chips.
Yeah, it's tough for Bill to fold here. I mean, he definitely at least has to call 1 bet with the open-end straight draw.
Pot up to 18,800 after a call. Third diamond on the turn, neither player with a flush draw.
Yeah, neither player likes that card. I think Ike, without the ace of diamonds, is almost always going to bet the turn here to protect his hand and not let Perkins see a free river card.
Bet is now 12,000 if Bill wants to continue.
Fold.
And he's going to sit this one out. A little over 30,000 chip pot heading over to Haxton. Kind of a welcome gift.
Not a hand that I can pursue anymore.
It's like Bill discussing the hand with his coach, Jeff Gross.
Yeah, that's true. One of these times I'm going to ship it.
Perkins with 10-8 offsuit. This won't be the time he ships it. Pocket 9s for Jason Mercier. And he's going to open up the action by raising to 2,400, min raise. Over to Haxton. He's got Queen 10 offsuit.
Now, Ike on the button is going to play a relatively wide range of hands. He's going to feel very confident in his post-flop ability. And Queen 10 off, not the best hand in the world. I think Ike was probably thinking about either 3-betting or calling there and elects just to call.
A couple of 3s for Jeff Gross.
I personally like 3-betting with a hand like Queen 10 off, maybe just calling with Queen 10 suited, but Ike elected to just call and see a flop here.
3-way and Jack 9-8 with a couple of clubs. Jason Mercier has flop middle set, and Ike Haxton has the nut straight. Jeff Gross also involved, making it a 3-way pot. His pocket 3s should see an easy exit if there's any action at this point.
Yeah, this is just a huge cooler here, and Jason decides to check. My guess is that he's looking for Ike to bet so he can put in a check raise.
And Ike, of course, is going to indulge, betting 7,000.
Yeah, I don't think he was expecting Ike to have a better hand, though.
Easy muck for Gross, and it's back over to Mercier on this highly textured flop.
Yeah, this is a really dangerous board.
Mercier has check raised it to 19,500 total.
Now we'll see if Ike decides to just call or to put even more aggression. My guess is that Ike doesn't expect Jason to be check raising very light here, so he'll probably put another raise in and try to get stacks in.
Indeed he does, 52,000 total now.
Yeah, and there's not really much for Jason to do. He has to ship it in with middle set.
On.
All in.
And that's exactly what he does.
Call.
Ike says call rather nonchalantly with the nuts, and Mercier has a look of concern.
Yeah, you could see on his face when he went all in, he looked at Ike to see how quickly he would call because there was definitely at least a possibility that he was beat.
Well, the trapper became the trappee.
I almost just called, too.
An absolutely massive pot here. Ike has over 100 big blinds and just a really unfortunate cooler for Jason. Things were going so well for him, and now it looks like he might lose a huge pot.
No help to a set of 9s on the turn. 290,400 chips in the middle. Mercier needs the board to pair, and it does. Look at this.
Wow, look at that. And Ike, just like that, has busted from the tournament.
All right, rebuy time.
Well, not quite. Apparently, he's ready for a second bullet, my friends.
Hey, buddy.
Jason, absolutely crushing the tournament at this point.
You have 200.
The set miner strikes again.
This is hometown. What do you think?
Hometown.
You got to see a safe
Florida set minor.
I've never won a tournament in Florida. Whew, scary stuff.
Very, very fortunate river for Jason, and now he's got a really huge chip lead.
All right, so you always had the intention of a second rebuy, or this is a last-minute decision?
No, it's not a last-minute decision. I was probably planning on rebuying if I busted.
All right, well, off you go, 100K, and we'll see you back here.
All right.
Thanks.
Well, Ike's looking around to find out where he can drop off another 100K. So we know that Isaac Haxton is on his way to a re-entry. Both Chewy and Jason Kuhn most certainly not going to be rejoining us. Meanwhile, Daniel Perper and Daniel Alai still sort of up in the air.
And with that, we're calling it a night. So join us next time as Day 2 of WPT Alpha 8 Florida shuffles into action. For Ali Najad and Olivier Busquet, I'm Lynn Gilmartin. Good night. Welcome to the world of high-stakes poker. A seat into our exclusive tournament costs at least $100,000, and you have VIP access to all the action. This is WPT Alpha 8. We are here in South Florida at the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino for continuing coverage of WPT Alpha 8. The game we play is Texas Hold'em, but our prestigious poker table is not just for anyone. Our players are part of an exclusive group who travel the world in search of the highest stakes games. All of our competitors started by paying the $100,000 entry fee. And while that investment seems smart for some, for others, not so much. The gentleman with an expert perspective on how to successfully play the game at this point, up in the ClubWPT.com skybox, A8's noble commentators Ali Najad and Olivier Busquet. Gentlemen.
Hey, Lynn, thank you so much. Olivier and I are, of course, excited to be here for our continuing coverage of the first ever WPT Alpha 8 event, which drew a very interesting dichotomy of both poker veterans and very wealthy business people, all of whom have ponied up at least $100,000 to be here.
Now, during the first 6 levels, anyone with $100,000 could take a seat at the tournament, and anyone who busted could re-enter. But now we've reached the point where the field is locked in.
Basically, if you run out of chips, it's hasta la vista. At last check, we were waiting on both Daniel Alai and Daniel Perper to decide whether or not they were going to re-enter, and they have both made the decision to do so, joining Isaac Haxton as the only 3 players in the event to invest in a second bullet. Chris Klodnicki has joined the action at our feature table and tweeted, just registered the Alpha 8 100K at Hard Rock. Just got to beat 12 people to win. Doesn't sound too hard. Actually, Chris, it's 15 people, but who's counting? And for that matter, it is kind of hard, isn't it?
These 15 aren't slouches.
Action is underway at the feature table right now, where the blinds are at 800 and 1600. It's on Options Trader Daniel Perper, whose second $100,000 has produced the very robust 7-4 offsuit. Florida native Jason Mercier, he lays it down, and Isaac Haxton got a quick glimpse at him. He now lives in Malta. Seasoned pro J.C. Tran, who was a Season 5 Player of the Year, lays down. Klodnicki doesn't get a hand he likes to start things off, and it's on to Matt Glantz. The Pennsylvania native with King-Queen offsuit plays the high-stakes cash games over at the Parks Casino.
Easy open from the button here with King-Queen.
Blinds are at 8 and 1600, so Matt's raised to 3200 is the minimum. Jeff Gross folds over to venture capitalist and energies and commodities trader Bill Perkins.
Bill Perkins with 9-8 offsuit. Pretty easy defend there to the min raise.
Flop is a 7 and a couple of 3s.
Extremely dry flop here. And Bill Perkins makes a very unorthodox and rather bizarre lead into the raiser, Matt Glantz.
What's the objective here? You think Matt's ever going to fold?
You know, maybe he thinks that without a pair, Matt will fold, but clearly just with King, Queen high, Matt is not going anywhere. And he does turn a queen, so he's definitely not folding now.
Perfect card on the turn. Bill checks, as though he was only willing to take one shot at stealing the pot.
Yeah, it's odd to give up right away.
Well, Matt checked right behind him despite hitting the queen. Is that designed to maybe induce a bluff on the river here?
Well, if it was, looks like it worked.
Yeah.
An easy call here for Matt. Bill Perkins showing a little bit of inexperience here, playing a very unorthodox line that does not work.
Not his finest moment at a poker table in that particular hand.
That was fun. What are you doing when you get here?
Well, let's get a look at the prize pool. Over $2 million collected between the 18 players. First prize is worth almost $900,000. And fourth, just shy of $250,000.
Pretty big bubble there between fourth and fifth place.
Yeah, absolutely, from 0 to a cue ball. As we send it over to the outer table, gaming executive Tom Hall is all in post-flop. He has been called by Brandon Steven. Both Joe Chong and Philip Gruesome have folded. And Tom Hall is going to roll over 8-5 suited up against Brandon Stevens' pocket sixes. Stevens got a set of sixes, and Hall has bottom pair with an open-ended straight draw. Turn card is a 10, third diamond, neither player with a flush draw. Tom is just looking for a 4 or a 9, and he cannot connect. Looking for the straight, but instead, he's headed straight for the exit.
Yeah, Tom Hall, our first player to bust out without the option of re-entering. So we're going to say goodbye to Tom.
Officially in 16th place is Tom Hall as we get back to the feature table. Action on Chris Klodnicki, graduated from Lehigh University, and he's sitting on an ace-king suited. His raise is to 3,500, and it's back over to Bill Perkins with the suited connector, always tempting in No Limit.
Yeah, I like this call from Bill with 7-6 suited in position. Can hit a lot of deceptive boards and make some strong hands.
I've never been to Macau, so.
Folded around to Isaac Haxton.
35.
From the big blind with Queen 10, I can't imagine Ike folding Queen 10.
Yeah.
Isaac used that Queen 10 to flop the nut straight against Jason Mercier earlier in the event. It, of course, didn't work out as Mercier's set of 9s filled up. Flop is 9-4-5. Klodnicki has swung and missed, and it's an open-ended straight draw for Bill Perkins. Nothing much for Isaac.
Chris with 2 overcards and a backdoor straight and a backdoor flush draw takes a shot here. Looks like it's not going to work as Bill puts in a raise with his open-ended straight draw. Strong raise from Bill Perkins.
Easy out for Isaac, and it's back over to Chris.
Not much Chris can do here. Bill's just shown too much aggression.
We were trying to figure out the numbers.
Another 10,000 to call.
I'm not sure what Chris is thinking. He can't really do much with just ace-king here. He could consider calling and then make a move if he gets more equity on the turn, but he does ultimately decide to fold. Well played there by Bill Perkins.
I was ready for it.
I was ready for it, says Bill, suggesting that if Chris would have come over the top, he would have made the call, which of course we know is unlikely to be true, but not impossible.
Hey, you never know.
Blinds and antes have gone up to 1 and 2,000 and a 300 chip ante. That, of course, reduces the value of every stack at the table and affects the shorter stacks more than the bigger ones. Chris is downgraded to 9-4 offsuit. He'll sit this one out, as will Glance. On to Jeff Gross. King 6 not good enough for him. And Bill Perkins, with a wider range than the average player, looks at Jack 9 offsuit.
In this late position, this is a pretty standard open from Bill.
Yeah, Bill has made it 4,000 to go from the hijack position, or 2 off the button.
He never folds the big blind. In JC's book, it's like chapter 2. Never fold the big blind.
Chapter 1.
Chapter 1?
Can't teach him the rest if you let him fold after chapter 1.
Both players here have flopped something. They both have a 2-way straight draw.
Bill looking for a 7 or a queen. JC for a 5 or a 9 as Tran checked it over to Bill, who bet 5,500.
And check, bet, call is the pretty normal way for this hand to go, and that's exactly how it's gone so far. See what the turn brings.
Never fold.
22,000 and change in the pot. King of diamonds on the turn. JC again checks.
This is a card that's pretty good for Bill to keep firing on. It makes a lot of JC's calling on the flop range weaker. Looks like he is looking for another bet.
And he settles on what looks like just 8,000.
Yeah, 8,000 is a little bit small. You know, his flop bet was 5,500. 8,000 is not even twice that bet, only about a third of the pot. We'll see how JC responds to this smaller size bet.
Check raise from JC Tran with 7 high.
A very strong play here from JC. Looks like he picked up on some weakness from Bill and decided to turn his straight draw into a bluff.
Tran, 2-time World Series of Poker bracelet holder and WPT Season 5 Player of the Year, is getting called.
Yep, Bill looks like he likes his draw enough to try to see one more card.
Certainly wasn't getting the right price.
Yeah, I mean, it depends how you value implied odds. JC now having missed his straight draw on the river, is not giving up, continuing to fire.
And a quick and easy fold from Bill Perkins and successful execution of the bluff from the stone face JC Train. You know he's doing backflips inside.
Yeah, that was a really well-played hand from JC. Picked up on some weakness on the turn, turned his draw into a semi-bluff, missed, but had the strength to continue on the river. And since they both missed, it's really the aggressor who's going to win. And JC bets the river and takes down the pot.
I just can't get there. I was like, all right.
Action on Jeff Gross, the Baltimore resident, friend of Olympian Michael Phelps, originally from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Looks down at ace-king offsuit and makes it 5,200 to go.
That's the
Big
only
hand here
reason.
for Jeff with ace-king, opening under the gun, 8-handed. Wow, Jason folds ace-jack. Most players, I think, would have at least called there. Jason recognizing that Jeff opens a little bit tighter than most players, and in early position, ace-jack just doesn't play that well to Jeff's opening range.
13-5.
Queen or a 7 on your
Claude Nicky apparently does not have that same recognition, as he has 3-bet from the small blind to a total of 13,500 with king-queen offsuit, and it's back on Jeff.
And king-queen is actually a pretty good hand to 3-bet with. It blocks certain strong hands from Jeff, makes it less likely that he has ace-king, ace-queen, kings and queens. Obviously, in this case, we see that Jeff does have ace-king. And Jeff surprisingly just calls. Chris started the hand with about 32 big blinds. It looks like the perfect opportunity for Jeff to put in another raise.
But an imperfect flop for Chris Claude Nicky. This spells disaster for him potentially.
Yeah,
King tray 5 rainbow, and he's betting out 12,000.
This is a horrible flop here for Chris. They've obviously both flopped a very big hand, pair of kings, with Jeff having the ace kicker.
And Jeff smooth calls.
Yeah, I think raising here would just be unnecessary. In position with ace-king, I think calling down is really the best strategy.
Well, you want to extract the maximum from your opponent, and raising gives him a chance to get out, potentially. Board pairs on the turn, and with over 55,000 in the pot, Chris Claude Nicky is coming up with a number.
17,000.
Jeff is loving the situation. He decided to slow play ace-king before the flop, hit top pair with the nut kicker, and now he's just calling down, hoping that Chris is willing to put his whole stack at risk.
And the river card doesn't change much about the hand.
Yeah, Chris has really no options here besides just moving all in. He could consider checking, but it just doesn't make sense. His hand is too strong, and there aren't many bluffs to try to induce from Jeff.
All in.
And Chris does say all in.
I think we probably could have got this over with pre-flop, but...
A little bit surprising that Jeff hasn't already called. His hand is too strong to really consider folding in this spot.
So sick. Got a monster. 28-9, right? That's annoying.
Well, he seems uncomfortable with Chris's all-in at this point, as though he's giving him credit for aces.
PCA-ish.
Yeah, that's possible, but I really can't imagine him folding.
I don't know how I can fold. I guess you have aces. Wow.
And Gross makes the call, and Claude Nicky looks a little bit confused.
That's in. I wasn't going to fold. I was hoping you would check the river. I was going to check behind. I really did not.
Chris a little bit frustrated that his hand was beat there, but I think well played by both players.
Wow.
Can't blame Claude Nicky for having that look on his face. Late entry and early exit.
I almost folded. I swear to God.
If you had more money, you would.
Yeah, I would have probably.
Joined by Jeff Gross. We are in the man cave of the Seminole Hard Rock, Hollywood. This place is amazing. It's like a cheeky cabana. There's a pool, there's a massage table. Check out your mate back there getting a massage.
Yeah, he's having fun.
One thing that I think a lot of people are kind of fascinated about you is your sort of tie with Michael Phelps. Did you teach him how to play poker?
We actually met at a poker table, I think 9 years ago. You know, he plays for fun now and again. He's pretty good, so you know, he's not like a soft spot by any means. He's pretty solid.
So at what point did you realize you were good enough to play these events?
Well, I started playing when I was in high school, and just like any other kid, saw it on TV and got a little money online, and I was like 21, 22, and I got my first decent score. I was like, wow, this is possible. And it's just like, you know, a lot of strategy, but obviously there's luck.
And like luck is when preparation meets opportunity, so you're ready for it, and then when it's your time and you do well, when you have a chance, obviously you have to get lucky also. You know, having some six-figure scores makes me feel that, you know, I belong and can play with these guys. I'm not intimidated, and I feel like I like my chances in there.
Did you see the size of Lynn's drink there? Where's that all gonna go?
That requires a strong tolerance from Lynn Gilmartin.
Action at the feature table, three-way pot, which is raised to 5,200 pre-flop, and Jeff Gross has flop top pair, top kicker, but Bill Perkins has bottom two pair. Action on Jeff, who leads into the pot of 18-7 for 4,500.
Even JC has a pair and a straight draw here. We'll see how Bill decides to play his bottom two pair here. I'm more likely to just call in position here and see what comes off and how my opponent plays it. Bill raising a number of flops.
You and Bill play differently.
Just slightly. But I don't mind the raise here. I mean, his hand is obviously strong enough for a raise.
Well, it gets it down to heads up as Tran mucks the 2-8s and Jeff just calls.
Very good card here on the turn for Bill. I expect him to keep firing.
Action on Jeff first.
Check the Hodor.
And he checks it.
Hodor.
And Bill checks behind.
Very, very strange check there. And a terrible card for both players comes off.
JC would have made a jack-high straight if he had been able to continue, which of course he wasn't.
Jeff makes a small bet on the river.
And snap call from Bill.
Oh, I got it.
Yeah, that was a very weird river play. I think that Jeff should really just check that hand on the river.
I didn't love my spot. That's a very perky flop.
Yeah, it's super perky. That's got my name written all over it.
My edge would be unpredictable. I'd make a couple of squirrely calls, a couple out of position, play some cards that you wouldn't expect me to have. When the flop comes there, usually they don't believe me, so they pay me off.
Well, Bill likes to keep it funky.
Yeah, some self-awareness there from Bill. He understands his strengths and he understands how to exploit them. Could come in handy for him later on.
Well, Bill Perkins' approach to poker, a little bit different than most, kind of a double-edged sword, and that's part of why he finds himself in sticky situations from time to time on the felt.
Yeah, but that's why he has Jeff Gross as his poker coach to help him get out of those spots.
Indeed, he does. As we get back to action at the feature table, action on Matt Glantz in the small blind. Glantz with pocket queens here.
I think I'm a good poker player because I can adapt to pretty much any situation. I wouldn't say that I have the best fundamentals or the best knowledge of any one game or a particular situation, but when it comes to any kind of spot in a poker game, I kind of figure out what the best alternative, what best move is to do, and pretty much go from there, and I'm always adjusting.
You know, Matt Glantz is really a good candidate for one of the best overall poker players in the world. Very, very skilled at all the poker games, not just No Limit Hold'em.
Yeah, high-stakes cash game mixed player from the East Coast. His 3-bet with a couple of queens makes quick work of king-queen offsuit, and then he decides to huck some chips at Dan Perper.
Sorry, Dan. I showed him he has 200 change. I threw it to him. It's a very bad shot, though.
You hit him in the head.
I'm vicious.
3-bet Jason, he folds, you throw
Well, Jason's
chips
an
at him.
athlete. You're supposed to catch it.
I didn't even see it.
Yeah, think fast, bro.
In the lights.
Let's get over to the outer table, where Dan Shack has moved his entire stack into the middle against Philip Gruesome on the board of Ace-King-10. Run out no good for Dan Shack, and he dishes out a few handshakes before making his way out of the building. Down to 13 players now. Philip Gruesome inheriting the rest of Dan Shack's stack. He actually won the $50,000 high roller rebuy event at the 2013 World Series of Poker, good for $863,000 and change. As we come back to the feature table, where Isaac Haxton finds himself heads up in a pot against Jeff Gross. The board currently reads Queen, 7, Ace, Ace.
So Jeff raised pre-flop and then checked pair of queens with a king kicker after Ike had checked in position. Ike out of position led on the turn, which was another ace. Ike with just a gut shot straight draw, but I think he was picking up that Jeff probably didn't have a very strong hand since he didn't bet the flop. Jeff not going anywhere with his pair of queens, and we'll have to see what happens on the river.
Yeah, betting a call of 10,500, a little over 36 in the middle, and the river card, not a 10. That's what Ike was hoping for. Instead, it's a third diamond out there. And Haxton's reaching for chips.
So, you know, Ike is the type of player, when he has equity and takes a shot at a pot, he usually follows through on the river, especially if a card like the 8 of diamonds, which makes a reasonable draw on the flop, come through. Even though Ike doesn't have diamonds, he can easily represent a flush here, or really any decent ace.
Well, he's not giving Jeff credit for an ace or diamonds, considering that Jeff checked back on the flop, which is obviously factoring into this decision, and now Gross is in a pinch.
What the hell do you think I have?
Jeff here with the king of diamonds can kind of discount a few flushes from Ike's range. He just has to try to figure out how often he thinks Ike is bluffing here. I think Ike, one of the things that separates him from some of the other pros is that he's actually bluffing in these types of situations more than most players and gets people to fold these medium strength hands like Jeff just did there with king queen.
I just can't think what you think I have there.
If you have a bad ace or a queen.
And Ike spot on with his read there.
Yeah, exactly, yeah, one of those two.
Jeff's wondering if his cards have backs on them. Meanwhile, over at the outer table, ace 9-10 rainbow board, Eric Seidel finds himself all in with 5-6 suited. And not looking good as the turn leaves him drawing dead. Joseph Chong dispatches the Hall of Famer, who is heading into the South Florida sunshine, 100K lighter in the pocket.
Jeff Gross took a huge prop bet from Bill Perkins. It involves a tattoo and a lot of money. Log on to ClubWPT.com and hear what Jeff told us in the Alpha 8 Clip of the Week. ClubWPT.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
With Eric Seidel's elimination just before the break, we are now down to 12 players.
With 7 at our feature table and 5 at the outer table, we've moved 1 player to balance the tables.
And that was Matt Glantz, who was all in pre-flop with pocket jacks against aces and tens, and has flopped a set of jacks. That's exactly how you want to script it, isn't it?
It's a pretty good flop there for pocket jacks.
He fills up on the turn, still looking to dodge an ace, and he does, making quick work of Brandon Steven. Brandon's probably thinking, you just got here, man, and you're going to bust me?
Yeah, huge pot there for Matt Glantz.
Always hard to go home busting with aces. Glantz tripling up there. Philip Gruesome had both players covered, so he emerges relatively unscathed as we get back to the feature table. Action is on Isaac Haxton after a fold from Jason Mercier. Haxton with 10-9 offsuit. Blinds and antes have gone up to 1,500 and 3,000. Ante is 500. Haxton makes it 6,500 to go, and Jeff Gross looks at a hard 12. Boxcars.
9-10 offsuit might seem like a relatively weak hand, but they're only 6-handed, and Mercier had already folded. So Ike raising there with 9-10 is actually pretty normal. Jeff calling with 2 6s on the button is completely standard.
Ike with about 40 big blinds to start the hand, and he'll end up heads up with Jeff heading to the flop. And that flop is 10-10 deuce. Easy game.
Yeah, and this is the type of board where I'd expect Ike to just bet 3 times and try to get his stack in. It's very deceptive, 2 10s on the board and him holding one of them, and even the other card being as low as a deuce.
Well, the first bullet is a 10,500 caliber. Jeff with 2 6s. Definitely not folding.
Jeff can't really consider folding at all. He could consider raising, but the vast majority of pros in a situation like this, in position with a pocket pair, elect just to call.
And that's exactly what he did as a 4 hits the turn, another undercard to the 6s.
And it also brings a backdoor flush draw. I expect Ike to bet here, but he decides to check and play it a little tricky.
And Gross checks back, and a jack hits the river.
Ike might have been planning to try to check raise the turn, but instead I think he'll go for a relatively decent-sized bet here on the river.
And with 41.5 out there, Ike fires 38,000, almost a full-size pot bet.
Yeah, that was a little larger than I expected.
Damn, dude, you're tough.
And there might be some history here since we saw Jeff and Ike play a hand earlier and Jeff fold on the river. He might be less willing to fold on the river again to the same player.
And we heard Jeff say, dang, dude, you're tough.
Yeah, Ike is really one of the toughest players around. And Jeff knows that Ike could be bluffing here, but unfortunately for him, if he does call, he's not going to like what he sees.
Which he does. Surprise.
Nice hand.
Jeff might have been a little bit tired of folding on the river. He might have just overestimated Ike's bluffing frequency, or maybe not, just in this case, Ike had it. It's tough to tell. It's a very difficult spot there for Jeff. Decided to go with it, but unfortunately, Ike did have 3 10s.
I was gonna lay it down. Yeah, he should have called with the king-queen against Ike's king-jack earlier, and he should have laid down here. Just wrong decisions, wrong times.
And sometimes just looking at the results is tough to tell whether, you know, a player is playing well or not. Sometimes they're just getting unlucky and running into certain hands from their opponents. I think it's reasonable for Jeff to call there, but it's really tough to tell.
Well, Gross starts this hand with 170,000 and change, and he has put 6,000 of it out there with ace-10 offsuit.
It's like you are not afraid.
Blinds are at 1,500 and 3,000, so 6K is the min raise right now. Antes are at 500. Daniel Perper has ace-jack suited. And he is going to ship it. 23,000 total.
Dan Perper very short stacked here, just under 8 big blinds. Pretty easy all in with ace-jack suited, but he does run into the ace-queen of Jason Mercier, who does not fold.
He just calls, and another ace-jack suited, this time for Isaac Haxton, but he's got a razor, an all-inner, and a cold caller in front of him, so he's going to lay it down.
Good disciplined fold there by Ike.
Oh, this is awkward.
4 hands and 4 aces.
All right, Jason, if I hadn't just spewed off 40 on that river, I might play with you, but I think you got like a either me dominate or a pair, yeah.
Perper just not able to get anything going throughout this tournament.
I had ace-10.
Which includes 2 bullets.
And I had ace-jack.
I was like, oh man, this is, I don't feel like I'm even gonna get this. And you start tanking, I was like, oh God.
Was in a good spot to try to double up, but then ran into Jason Mercier behind him, who had ace-queen.
And the flop, king, queen, 9. Not over for Daniel Perper, despite Mercier's having the better hand right now. He's looking for a 10 to make Broadway.
Actually has 4 outs instead of the 3 he had before the flop. He needs any 10 to make a straight.
Well, 6 isn't going to cut it, and now he's got 1 pull, add a 10 to make Broadway and stay alive.
Get some.
That's the face of a man whispering quietly, 10, 10, 10. Instead, it's a 7. Daniel Perper has been eliminated.
Thanks. Knew that was going to happen.
And that's never a good feeling when you bust, having put 2 bullets in.
First time I've had a playable hand in 6 hours, and then...
Unfortunate day for Daniel Perper.
Is that to induce me, or you just want? I mean, if I ship it, you.
I don't know, man. I was just hoping everybody folded.
Hoping you didn't have to make any more decisions.
Yeah.
Alpha 8 is brought to you by ClubWPT.com. Fun, exciting poker you can play for free.
Welcome back to the world's most exclusive poker room, WPT Alpha 8. Tonight's event is brought to you by the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino in South Florida. Action at the feature table is in full gear, so let's get to Ali and Olivier up in the ClubWPT.com skybox.
We get a look at the current chip counts. Jason Mercier, the big stack. Jeff Gross sitting on the short one.
We're now down to 10 players with 5 at our feature table and 5 at our outer table. So you might see players opening up and playing a slightly wider range than before.
Well, you don't need a wide range to get involved with pocket aces, which is exactly what Bill Perkins has right now.
Yeah, I think I might play pocket aces no matter how many players are at the table.
He makes it 7,000 to go. That's 2.5x with the blinds at 1,500 and 3,000. Ante is 500. Mercier with the easy fold. And now to Isaac Haxton on the button with ace-jack suited.
Yeah, Ike has a couple options here. I think he could very easily 3-bet. He decides to just call, which I actually prefer. His hand is suited and plays well in a number of different flops. He's in position, so he doesn't mind adding a player or 2 to the field.
Both blinds fold, and it's Bill and Isaac heading heads up to the flop. 6-10-9 with a couple of diamonds.
Ike flops a pretty big hand here with the nut flush draw.
2 aces still best. 21,000 in the middle.
This is a pretty good flop for Bill. Not the best flop, but definitely worth at least 1 or 2 bets.
Perkins coming up with a number. 8,500.
Ike again with the option of either calling or raising with his very big draw. And I like in position just calling here, seeing what comes off.
And that's a troublesome card potentially for Haxton. He now has jacks with the nut flush draw.
Yeah,
certainly is drawing to beat aces, but is still behind.
He's definitely not going anywhere now. And Bill makes another bet on the turn.
12,500 this time. Haxton calls the 12-5, pot up to 63 even. And here comes the river. Haxton with a lot of outs, and a diamond is one of them. Awful river card for Perkins.
Just terrible for Perkins. Looks like he's reaching for chips, but I don't like betting here. His hand is just not good enough to put any more chips in this pot. And obviously now Ike is going to raise this bet, and hopefully Bill will be able to get away with just one pair here. But I think Bill could have gotten away with just checking the river and saving some chips.
Yeah, it looks like Perkins may have lit a match to 15K. Really hard to justify betting with that board texture on the end.
Sometimes it's just tough psychologically when you have two aces in your hand to accept the fact that maybe you've lost the hand.
And of course, here's the big raise from Haxton, the 67 total.
Now, obviously, Bill doesn't beat anything. Any 8 or king is a straight, 2 diamonds is a flush, and he does find a fold. So at the river does make the good decision finally.
Oh my God, that is not the best. Wow.
Not the best hand.
Not the best board.
And Perkins gives Haxton a look at the two aces.
Wow, it just got worse and worse.
It just got worse. I should have just opened shelves on the flop.
Might have lost.
That would have been interesting.
Wow, Perky gets the ones. I had an ace too.
I know he called me with some ridiculous hand.
Over at the outer table, Philip Gruesome has open raised all in with ace-7 offsuit. Matt Glantz has made the call with queen-9 suited, and we head to the flop. Philip, his tournament life at stake, and it's a 9-high board. Glantz now has the best hand. Philip is hoping for an ace to stay alive. Turn card doesn't connect, and he has 3 outs once. 4 of hearts is not one of them, and that is the end of the day for Philip Gruesome. Auf Wiedersehen, my friend.
Nice run for Matt Glantz here at the outer table.
Philip saying his goodbyes to his friends in the high-stakes community.
Philip looking a little less dejected than some of the other past bust-outs. I think he's more used to these stakes and the variance that comes with live tournaments.
Either that or the fact that he's exchanging British pounds for US dollars softens the blow. He
That
currently
does help.
lives in London, and he's getting a good exchange rate, isn't he?
You know that? Back-to-back FTs, kid.
And he comes over to the feature table to say goodbye to his friends there as well.
And they are down to 9 players, so they will consolidate into one table. Looking for high roller excitement without the high roller risk?
Then go to clubwpt.com and sign up for our Alpha 8 High Roller Play Chip tournaments for a chance to be crowned champion.
There's a seat waiting for you right now at clubwpt.com.
Welcome back to the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino here in South Florida for the continuation of our inaugural WPT Alpha 8 event, where the room has shrunk a little bit. We're down to 1 table.
There's also been a redraw, so all the players have new seats, and we've been joined by 3 strong pros, Joseph Chong, Steven Silverman, and Daniel Alayi.
Matt Glantz, after taking a break from the feature table and moving over to the outer table, he's gone from short stack to chip leader.
It's been a good run for Matt.
Nice little shift out there. And there's a look at the current chip counts. As we mentioned, Matt Glantz, the chip leader. And we pick up the action at the feature table with the blinds at 2 and 4,000, ante at 500. Pocket deuces for Jason Mercier, and he pitches it.
Wow, that's surprising. I can't see myself folding deuces there with no real short stack. Maybe I should re-look at my under the gun range now that I see Jason folded.
Yeah, stop being such a fish cake, Olivier. Ace-10 offsuit for Bill Perkins, folded around to him, and he makes it 10K to go.
Silverman with pretty easy call on the button with pocket 5s.
No need to re-raise?
No, his hand is not strong enough to re-raise, and he's in position looking to flop a set and win a big pot.
Of course, you do invite the squeeze whenever you smooth call on the button in a spot like this. And it's not really a squeeze, but JC Tran is most certainly going to be playing back with pocket kings.
Yeah, JC looking to 3-bet and get as many chips as possible into the pot before the flop with his monster pair.
27,000 total. Bill Perkins bows out, and it's 17K for Silverman to call.
Good disciplined fold there by Bill. I think Steve, if he was out of position to JC, might consider folding this hand, but starting the hand with just over 40 big blinds, I can see Steve wanting to take a chance to flop a set and potentially double up here against JC.
And that's what he does. Steve hails from the Washington, D.C. area and has flopped a set of 5s, sucking out against those 2 kings.
Steve and I used to actually play heads up online quite a bit when he was first starting out. Very tough opponent.
Meanwhile, JC Tran, post-flop, has fired 38,000.
That's actually a pretty big bet on the flop here. Steve, having flopped middle set, is just loving the situation, looking almost definitely to double up here.
All in.
He says all in.
So sick. Give me an exact count. Put him on a small pair, too.
I think it'll be very difficult for JC to get away. His instincts seem to know that he could potentially be beat, but I think his hand is too strong and Steve doesn't have enough chips to get JC to actually fold.
Yeah, 143,500 total, and JC calls the balance, and Steve gives him the bad news.
And I like that Steve didn't try to play it all tricky and make a small raise. He just put his chips in the middle. He hoped JC had a big pair, and if he did, didn't expect him to fold it.
I'm gonna suck out.
He was right and looks to double up here with a set of 5s.
Well, let's see if he can avoid a king. So far, so good on the turn, but that 8 changes things.
It actually increases chop outs, and so if any of the 7s come, they would chop with a straight on the board, but the river's an ace, and Steve Silverman does double up with his pair of 5s.
That's not how JC had it in his head with 2 kings.
Yeah, I don't think either player really did anything wrong there. Just one of those unavoidable spots where Steve took a chance, flopped the set, and was able to double up.
Total pot was over 357,000.
If I shove the flop, you call?
The flop?
Yeah. No, pre-flop.
With 5s?
Yeah.
No. But could you beat kings?
At the river. On the river.
Action is on Jeff with pocket 7s. Jeff starting the hand with just about 17 big blinds.
He moves all in.
Jeff decides to move all in here.
Very easy.
Jeff under the gun, 9-handed here.
Is that like 70? 70 exactly, yeah.
All in with 2 7s.
69,500 to call. Action over to Joseph Chong, and with ace-queen offsuit, he is going over the top and all in, 174,500 total.
Yeah, Joe's stack is such that it doesn't really matter if he calls or raises all in. He's basically committed for the rest of his stack if he puts in the 70,000 that Jeff Gross has put in the middle. Almost 18 big blinds and his tournament life at risk.
Oh, that's a good start. That's not gonna do it.
Show me ace-king, Joe.
And you hear Gross say, show me ace-king, Joe. Ace-queen, pretty much the same thing. Of course, Chong either had an over pair or 2 over cards.
Good luck, brother. It's going to a good guy if you get it.
Thanks, appreciate that.
And we see from the stats that Joe is actually a small favorite with ace-queen offsuit, which is not typically the case. The reason here is that our statisticians have actually included all of the folded cards from the other players. Great flop there for pocket 7s, though.
I wish I had ace-king now.
Yeah, I know, right?
Jeff looking to avoid an ace or a queen on the river.
Here's the river.
And that river card is a 10. Jeff Gross stays alive.
You survived.
Thanks.
That would have been nice.
That's an awkward spot, too, with 7s. Under the gun, 9-handed. You know? I almost just raised, and I was like, I can't raise full. I gotta just ship it. Try to get a race or take it down.
Action continues in a moment.
My family are pretty used to the idea of me playing poker for big money at this point. I've been doing it for a few years, and they get it that this is what I do for a living, and they're not too stressed about it.
They just know it's part of the job, and they support me as I go.
They think it's a little crazy, but they also think it's fantastic.
I mean, my parents love poker. My dad, that's one of his favorite hobbies, and he likes following along, so they're really supportive.
My mom likes to follow along and to calculate how much I'm winning or what my stake is in the tournament.
I just try not to tell my mom. She would have a heart attack, so I don't tell them anything.
I like that. Chong is a good son. Why would you want to kill your mom by telling her you bought in $100,000 to a poker event? That's how my mom would feel about it. As we pick up the action here, you see the current chip counts. Matt Glantz still the big stack. Bill Perkins on the short one. Ace-Jack offsuit for Steven Silverman, who makes it 10,000 to go, and it's folded around to Matt Glantz.
Matt makes a somewhat tight fold with 7-6 of hearts on the button.
Ace-9 suited for Isaac Haxton in the big blind.
Ike definitely not going to fold this hand from the big blinds, especially to a min raise.
Yeah, blinds are at 2,500 and 5,000 with a 500 chip ante. And Ike defends.
It's going to be tough to beat the dominating ace-jack of Steve Silverman, though.
Well, here comes the flop. Queen-9 deuce. And Haxton has the best hand now with a pair of nines.
Yeah, Ike checks, keeping in rhythm, checking to the pre-flop aggressor. See if Steve puts a continuation bet out or not.
Well, why would he and why wouldn't he?
Well, the queen and the 9 are definitely a combination of cards that are going to help a lot of Ike's defending range. Hands like King 10, King Jack, King Queen, Jack 10. All these hands make some sort of hand here. Steve does decide to c-bet, and Ike quickly calls with mid-pair, a backdoor flush draw.
15,000 a man into the pot, and the turn is a 10 of diamonds. That makes things look a little better for Silverman.
Very interesting card. It gives Steve an open-ended straight draw, and even if another diamond comes on the river, Steve with the ace of diamonds might represent a flush. And for Ike, the 10 normally hits a big part of his range, giving him some sort of 2-pair or pair plus straight draw or even a straight. In this particular case, it's actually a terrible card for him because he just has an ace with his 9.
Now, Silverman doesn't know that, but nonetheless, he fires 37,000 at the turn with the open-ender, or the up and down straight draw.
Yeah, very strong turn bet there by Steve, and pretty easy fold with just ace-9 by Ike.
Well, Silverman's aggression being paid off.
I think my strengths involve just being able to know what pieces to put together. It's not often just thinking I should do this or this, but you know, there's various factors to consider, and it's kind of like doing a math problem.
Silverman actually retired in 2010 at the ripe old age of 22, actually dropping out of college in 2007 to turn pro. I'm not on that program.
Yeah, well, Steve made a decision to come back a year or two ago, and it looks like a good decision. He's had a lot of very good results. Steve, one of the more deliberate theoretical players, a very strong player.
Sort of Haxton-ish in that way, as we see action folded around to Ike, who has ace-8 suited this time.
Yeah, nobody is quite as Haxton-ish as Ike. He really is in a category by himself. Strong hand for him on the button with ace-8 of hearts.
Going Queen 10.
All in.
How much is it?
All in.
Bill Perkins, short stacked here, decides to go all in with his raggedy ace.
It's probably like 73,000.
72,000 more for Isaac to call, and he makes that call and will be pleased to see himself in a dominating position.
Always in a situation against him too. We're like probably
Ace
like
4 or 5. Go ahead and just get your wheelbarrow.
if I got to turn it over.
Yeah.
Bill could have considered just calling the min raise, but I think going all in was perfectly reasonable. Just a little bit unlucky that Ike had such a strong hand and is in dire shape to stay alive here.
Well, the flop will help bring things into focus as you see each player eagerly looking on, and it's a queen and a couple of 10s on the board.
And the chances of them tying have just jumped over 60% with any card above an 8 chopping the pot.
Is it hard not to chop?
Yeah, I need two cards under an 8, or to hit the 8. That works pretty well.
That's a tough card for Bill to see. Now he only chops with an ace or a queen and cannot win the pot outright.
And the river is a 3, spelling the end of the road for Bill Perkins.
Thanks. Brother.
See you.
Yeah, Bill Perkins, very popular among the pros, become almost a regular in these big buy-in events, actually finishing 3rd in the 100K at the World Series for just under $2 million. Though Bill doesn't play poker all day, every day like some of these pros, he's a strong player in his own right and can certainly hold his own.
Well, there you have it. The poker gods have spoken and the Alpha 8 have been chosen. Preparations for the official final table of WPT Alpha 8 Florida are underway. So join us next time as the fight for first place prize continues. For Ali Najad and Olivier Bousquet, I'm Lynn Gilmartin. Good night. It takes a lot more than luck to make it to poker's most elite final table. Each of our players have paid 6 figures and earned their way to make it this far. For some, it will be a big success, but for others, not so much. This is WPT Alpha 8. Welcome to the home of high-stakes, high-roller action in South Florida, and the Seminole Hard Rock Hotel and Casino is just that destination. We are in the middle of the first ever super high roller poker tournament to be held in this part of the world, and with a buy-in set at $100,000, the game's wealthiest and bravest players landed here, ready to show the world that they